Stylish on the outside, savage on the inside. Legion by Lenovo.
Welcome, everybody, to the Latin America semifinals for the the Paris Major, rather.
The Paris
Qualifiers.
Major.
The six Paris Major, the Paris 6 Major, the Paris Major 6.
All right,
Jinx.
well, you might have said semifinal, but to confirm things for people, this is technically a final as well.
It's technically a semifinal, but yeah.
Yeah.
The reason why it is a final, explain to the people at home.
Well, as we said last night, if you could even hear us with the technical issues that you all lived through, EU got 2 slots because Penta won 6 Invitational. They get 1 slot by default, same for NA, same for APAC.
Right.
And since Team Liquid, if you've been living under a rock, you haven't seen that Team Liquid had won Pro League Season 7 in Atlantic City, well, they gave their region an extra slot. And just at the right moment, as Gix was explaining yesterday, which means that there are 2 teams that will be going through the Paris qualifiers. One has already been confirmed. Immortals are already going to Paris. Tonight we see, is it going to be NIP or Bootcamp? But that aside, if you don't know who we are,
I'm in terror.
this is Parker. This is literally like the best person in the world. And this is me, the 2nd best person in the world.
I'm like 7th best. I like to style myself as the 7th best Rainbow Six caster that's ever sat at this desk.
Oh, so when you said I was the
You're
5th best.
You're 8th.
Okay. Let's
Look at the
pick
brackets.
bracket, yes.
So you might be wondering, as we were explaining, so this is technically the lower bracket finals, which will lead us to one of the 2 semifinals. You see that NIP is playing against Bootcamp Gaming. Now, you are very correct. This is not the finals, but it doesn't really matter. Very similar to what we saw in the Paris or in the 6 Invitational qualifiers, where that some regions got 2 teams. Europe had 2 semifinals. The winner of both those semifinals made it through. So Immortals will, I'm assuming at some point, play NIP or Bootcamp, whoever comes through, but it doesn't really matter who wins that matchup because technically they're both going anyways. The same thing with the EU. We saw, you casted it yesterday actually on your own channel for a community cast. We saw Orglis
beating
go through
IDK
3-1. And now IDK is going to be competing tomorrow against, I believe, Identity.
And that is the biggest surprise of
They beat Vitality, they beat Supremacy, I think they beat ENCE as well, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
they beat a lot
ENCE
of
had
good
already
teams.
lost to Motion Gaming, which is technically the 2nd best team in Finland, the first one being ENCE. Yet still,
It's funny how that works.
yeah, funny how that works, right? I think at this point we should be switching it around, but
Maybe let's not get ahead of ourselves.
oh, we'll see. But
Easy for ENCE.
they're doing well at the ESL 1, but not too hot in Rainbow Six, that's for sure. But
Take a look at NIP's roster, by the way.
yeah, let's take a look at the rosters. Of course,
You were saying about Orglis versus, or Identity versus IDK. We got Julio Kamikaze, PZD Psycho, and WAG here for NIP. And let's be honest, NIP's had a pretty terrible season.
there's no way around it.
I'm not gonna mince words. They currently have not been doing so hot as of the last couple weeks in BR6. Their performance in Pro League not so great. You know, they're here in the lower brackets, so they've been doing okay through the Paris Major quals, but they are still going up against a very hot Bootcamp, who seemingly have found like I guess like a new sense of swagger about them.
Yeah.
And they've looked pretty good. They 2-0'd Team 1, and if I recall correctly, Team 1 defeated NIP in Pro League a week ago. So
there's one thing that I want to add to this, though, Parker, because your analysis is on point, 100%. However, Pro League is played in a best-of-1 format.
Right.
This is a best-of-5. So this is where it is all about the how much energy can you still keep at the end. And let's take a look at the Bootcamp roster to talk about what they're bringing, because there's Duds, Intact, Lipsword, King, and Palu. And honestly, Palu, being a newer player on the team, has been an absolute maniac when it comes to plays.
He's been a breath of fresh air to that team.
That is
a
sure.
team that is, I think you can say, over the last season, and someone in BR6. Though I think surprising, they made it, if I remember correctly, they made it in the top 4 in BR6, actually knocking out Liquid, if I recall. But for this roster, they weren't also super hot over the last season or two, and now they've really come into their own, and they've done, you know, they've done really, really well. And today is going to be a challenge, because yesterday we saw, well, you didn't see because it wasn't broadcast on this channel, Ratalia, caster for
Otávio
Latin
Cheshi,
America.
our great co-worker.
Our Brazilian colleague, who we got to see down in Sao Paulo, and we'll hopefully see again in Rio and then in Paris too. He casted on his own channel, because some people were wondering why some of these matches weren't cast on the main channel. It's because we have community casters for a reason to cast these matches. So hunting down the VODs might be difficult for some people, but that's okay. Ratalia casted on his own, and Immortals beat Nip 3-1. It was not really that close.
No.
After the second map, Immortals just managed to just completely surpass them in almost every way, and it came really close. I think the second or third map was 7-6, and then after that it was all Immortals. So for Nip, they've been looking to have a better season they've had right now. It's the right time to start, because imagine not having this roster at the Paris Major would be very interesting, given that the only event they missed over the last 3 was Atlantic City.
Yeah.
So.
Well, if you count out Austin as well, they're going to be at DreamHack Valencia next week.
Yes.
So for people that are excited to see NIP finally playing internationally, we'll get to see him next week and playing. So that's something to be excited for. IDK is going to be there as well. They have a shot to qualify. Remind you, this whole week and the past week as well, they've been filled with Rainbow Six action.
Yes.
I think between Paris Major, Pro League, and community tournaments, there's been a lot of Rainbow Six to watch, and it's a treat. But we can also understand that it might be exhausting for some people to watch.
I know, casted a lot of community stuff as well. You did the Orglis IDK match. I even did match before that. You did do the match before that, and then you casted yesterday. I casted 4 matchups. I casted, what did I do? We did Elephant Gang versus Bittersweet, and then we did Bittersweet versus Obey, and then Obey versus Space Station, Obey, just all Obey, and then Obey versus SK, and then you and Michael also took care of it. So it's like, it's been a marathon, I think, for all of us.
Yes.
You know, we're almost out of the woods because we've got DreamHack Valencia coming up in just a couple days. Then on top of that, we've got the Paris Major in actually about a month right now.
In a month right after.
It's almost pretty much. It's pretty much a month from now.
Yeah, we fly out pretty much exactly 1 month after DreamHack Valencia, so it's getting really, really close.
We're almost there.
It is the highlight event of this half year.
Until Brazil.
Until Brazil, and that's the thing. Nobody was expecting Brazil to have such a huge stadium.
12,000 people.
About 15,000 maximum, actually.
Are they selling 12,000 tickets?
Well, they basically
we'll quarrel over the numbers, I'm sure.
I think we'll be fine.
We'll be fine.
I think between 12 and 15,000.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, for people that have never really assisted to a big esports event like that in a stadium, ESL1 is happening right now in Cologne. I've had the pleasure to work there a couple of years ago, and I'll tell you what, brother, it is absolutely insane sitting in the middle of an arena with, in that case, 15,000 people screaming, because they're all fans of esports in general as well.
Yeah,
I can't wait to see it.
It's going to be so exciting. Before we get to Rio, though, and before we get to Paris, we have a matchup today, and a little bit different with the map pool. Instead of a best of 1, it's a best of 5. There's 7 maps in the map pool. You can see that 2 of them are going to be removed in just a second, and then the remainder are going to be fought over. Now, Villa and Clubhouse will be the 2 that are jettisoned out of the pool. That means Bank, Border, Consulate, Oregon, and Coastline will be the 5 maps that we will see played today in some kind of order.
All right, we'll see Border as map 1, Consulate for the second one, Oregon for the third. This is turning out very close to what we had last night, actually. I think it just started with Oregon, and then we'll go for Coastline, then Bank. So
Bank as the ultimate tiebreaker. That is intriguing.
It makes so much sense, this being Latin America and Bank being the tiebreaker at the end.
It's been like one of their signature favorite maps
for
quite a while.
Basically since the beginning of Rainbow Six in Latin America, well, in Brazil specifically.
Yeah.
That happened really even before Pro League was a thing.
And this is only the second best of 5 that we're going to see played under the new system as well. The first was last night with you and Michael when you casted the North American one, in which Obey, by the way, managed to make it. And if anybody's curious, outside of the usual 8. So all 8 teams that went to Atlantic City. From North America, it was Evil Geniuses and Rogue. From Latin America, it was FaZe and Liquid. From Europe, it was Millennium and Penta. And then from APAC, it was Fnatic and Norarengo. So we're going to see all 4, or all 8 of them, my apologies.
Because a lot of people have been asking, like, oh, why are Rogue not playing? Why are EG not playing?
They're already
qualified.
So you should be, if you're fans of them, you should be happy that they're not playing because they've made it. There's no uncertainty. But joining them so far have been Immortals from Latin America.
Mocket
Mocket
from France.
From France.
Because they won their French nationals. So
Right.
French nationals gave you a spot because it's Paris Major is made in hosted in France.
Is that
so
true?
the host country gets a spot.
Is that how they made it?
Yep.
Because I was curious because they said that the host country was going to get one. So Mocket.
That's
So
the spot.
Mocket got it. So you've got Immortals, you've got Mocket, you've got Orgless, the org formerly known as One Up, the Germans, and then last night Obey Alliance. So North America, right now it looks like unless North America does well at DreamHack Valencia, they're only going to send 3 teams. APAC is looking like they're also only going to send 3 teams unless, because I don't think there's any APAC orgs competing.
There's only
Valencia.
no, none in Valencia. There's only 3 regions that are represented: Latin America, EU, and NA.
Right. And then they have their regional land, which is in Japan, Tokyo, which I wish I could go to.
Tokyo would be nice.
I'm huge in Japan. It's a saying. Have you never heard that saying before?
Oh,
Because I'm tall. Because I'm huge and... You never heard that saying? Okay,
No.
anyway. It's a double entendre because I'm also...
you also have a
he doesn't
really
get
good
it.
head of
You'll-
hair. Yes.
You'll,
That's-
people at home will understand what I'm saying. It's a saying. I'm big in Japan. It's
I
fine.
have
You
to
won't-
deal with this guy literally
you don't
every
get
single
my,
day.
you don't get my references.
He just
I have the
thinks he's
sickest
really
references. You don't get my references.
Bruh.
Unbelievable. And then, of course, that's going to be happening there. Representing Southeast Asia, it's Envy. From Australia, it's... who's representing Australia?
Is it VSDS?
I was going to say, is it VSDS or is it Atletico? It's one of the two. I think it might be VSDS.
We'll get back on that.
APAC is... It's so difficult for me to keep up to date on APAC because it happens like in the middle of the night for us.
Which is
right after Latin America, if I recall correctly.
yeah, and with Super Weeks,
It's like, and we basically haven't slept. So it's like, this
for the
has been
past
super weeks. So it's been very interesting. It's Element Mystic is from Korea, if I recall correctly. is it Sengoku Gaming? from
Sengoku Japan, yes.
Yeah. So it's going to be very interesting. Of course, Ainz has joined Norarengo now, which is terrifying.
It is.
Sorry, Shin. Shin from Ainz has now
He
joined
is
Norarengo.
an insane player from what we saw Six Invitational because they almost beat Ents.
It's wild. But all of that said, we are going to get into game number 1. We're going to get the bands underway. NIP versus Bootcamp, the winner of this best of 5 series, winds up in Paris.
All the boys will go to Paris, at least 5 of them. But we'll start off on board. We'll remind you, best of 5, as you just mentioned, which is different for people that haven't really been, or haven't really been keeping up with all the tournaments that have been happening, but I don't really envy anybody. There's so many different formats that we've been using because Pro League has a different one in terms of a league structure. But interestingly enough, Thermite's going to be the first one to get banned. Thermite's been banned quite a bit in
On border, that's pretty sensible.
makes a lot of sense. It's
Yeah.
for all regions, not just in Latin America. There depends on certain teams. Some teams like to ban the Lion to not deal with him. Some of them don't like dealing with the Glass because of the higher rate of fire, so they'll go for that ban second. And the Dokkaebi, that's the third one, where in combo with the Lion, they'll be able to clean up any of the defenders that are roaming. And we've seen Dokkaebi, yesterday, and even with the Orgless match versus IDK, that she's been extremely strong at detecting where the setup is from the defense. Echo will get removed, and I'm expecting Mira for the last one, even though this week teams have been a bit flexible with the Mira bans.
The one region that's really been taking Mira out of the fight is always Europe. Latin America and NA have banned her about half of the time. So it's, at least in these 2 regions, it's not always a certainty, which is actually, quite good. If I recall correctly, you casted this match. Was it Bootcamp versus Team 1 where they banned both of the hard breachers? And it was just absolutely wild.
Yes.
Alibi, excuse me.
What?
The first time I believe we have seen Madam Decoy get taken away from us.
I see theoretically, I understand the ban. However, if this is a reaction from, I don't remember which team was banning this one.
Alibi was banned by BK, by Bootcamp.
Bootcamp, which means that they're expecting something specific from NIP. that they've gotten through either information, through coaching, through matches, through scrims, etc. So they're removing that. It is a comfort pick that has been removed from the hands of NIP. We'll see how that plays out during the match.
Right.
But on a map like Border, we've been seeing Mira ban, but also we've been seeing a lot of Jaeger ban. And ban Jaeger, bring a lot of grenades. That's been something that we've seen in North America even.
Well, it's a grenade-heavy map. We just saw that there was 2 pairs on the board. There will now go down to 1 as Julio will move on to Twitch, and Psycho will be the only one with a pair of grenades. And I mean, it really depends. We saw Obey in particular, every single time Obey played Border yesterday, they saw the amount of grenades they brought shrink almost every single matchup. And then on top of that, they also weren't bringing any smokes with them this time around. So, hey, it's going to be interesting to see. For NIP right now, they have no smokes. They have 1 pair of grenades. The rest will just all be utility brought by the operators. With a Mira on the board, it makes sense to see Twitch's pick rate go back up. We've talked endlessly about how Twitch has seen very little action in the matches over the past 2 weeks, and that's because a lot of that is a byproduct of Mira being banned. You almost always, you don't always, but you almost always need a Twitch to take care of the Mira. It's very important because you can bring a Thatcher, sure, but it doesn't get the Mira window. You can bring grenades. They don't take care of the Mira window. You need to be able to hit that eject button, which is what the Twitch drone is so good at.
Yeah, and if there's any region that has remained conscious of the fact that Twitch is an operator that exists even in the game, even when Mira is allowed, is Latin America. And we've seen Astro bringing Twitch. He's been excellent on it, and he has always been an excellent player to know exactly how to weave his drone into the site to try and take down any Mira windows that are set up, knock out any utility that's already been preset, either ADSs, a yokai drone even. There's a lot of scary things that you can do as a good Twitch.
Yes. Not to mention the fact that you have that grid. Oh, what
the body block!
Paula is just body blocking the heck out of this drone. It sounds like they might have gotten it, but it was very hard for us to tell. Julio still has 1 more Twitch drone available too to go through, but if you can trade 1 Twitch drone per 1 Mira, that's pretty good. That's not too bad for you. Wag is going to be pinging away the Mira, trying to figure out where the drone is. You can see Julio's drone getting ever so closer to its intended target, which are those Mira windows put down by the Spanish operator, your favorite Spanish operator. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm still a little upset you didn't get my I'm Big in Japan reference.
I did. I'm just trying to be funny.
It's a Tom Waits song, and it's like it is Tom Waits, the great American artist, and it's also said as a means of being like, it's basically like, oh well, I'm really big in Japan. It's basically like, yeah, I'm really popular, but you have no way of proving it. Essentially what it means. It's just I don't know, it's an idiom.
I know.
We mash idioms.
Parker. You think that everybody's just gonna believe that you're funny? That's not how it works.
Somebody lying on the internet?
Who would ever do that?
So instead of popping the Mira, they're just going to take care of it with the XK-Rows. Wag will walk in, but Duds is going to spray away, and unfortunately for Boot Camp, Duds can't land all of those shots. Now, mind you, the recoil on the Scorpion is really something, but not being able to take care of all of those XK-Rows is very interesting. PZD is going to spring right in, but you can see they've completely fallen off. Oh, what a nice shot on Apala through the open Mira window. So I guess that answers our question. It indeed was open in the first opening frag. Ha! Pardon the pun. Will be on PZD, who used 2 Candelas to get that. But at least NIP has now established control in CCTV, and for Boot Camp, they're going to have to consolidate around the bomb in Armory.
Yeah, unfortunately for the attackers here of NIP, they don't really have access to a Dokkaebi, because once you have control of CCTV, all you'd love to have is to roam around and get kills from the back, but there you go. Wag will get the kill on M-King, and that's C4 removed, so the Mira away. So the 1v1 fighting capabilities have just been reduced. The Psycho gets 1 more, they'll drop Lightsword Legion on the floor, and Intact is the last man alive, as they'll be able to pick up PZD at 50% health. Intact gets 1, but he's Candela. There's still 1 that they can use, and an easy kill for Julio to clean up the round. NIP get the first one on the board.
Yeah, that wasn't too difficult to push for NIP. A good start to the round. They're going to need to come out strong here, I think, because they need to make up ground, not just in the game, but they're also going to need to make up ground in the standings. You know, they're a team that has performed admirably whenever we've seen them in international competition. You know, they always perform very well when they're playing away from home. They always play well when they're actually playing on a LAN setting. You know, on paper, I think you could argue that Nip probably has more of a pedigree than Boot Camp over the last couple seasons. As for this season, I think Boot Camp has had a better start. So it's going to be intriguing to see where this shakes out. But with the way that the new setup goes, of course, Nip will have consecutive opportunities to attack, and that looked like it was a flawless round. They managed to get it down, if I recall correctly, but that was really all Boot Camp was able to salvage out of that. They pushed them through CCTV, they were able to get them corralled inside of Armory, no office pressure whatsoever, and Boot Camp just were stacked up. They had the Legion downstairs trying to engage through a hatch in the CCTV with the final minute left, which is a very puzzling thing to do.
Though, you look at it this way, defensive boot camp was set up in CCTV so hard because they were relying on that mirror window to protect them to hold the hallway from it as well.
Right. And
the way that they had set up the site in CCTV to actually defend from any encroaching pressure from the office. However, once Twitch drone came in and dispatched the mirror window, it kind of all falls apart because now we're like, everything's open and I'm just going to sit here. Do I really want to rely on my 1v1 fighting capabilities, even if I have an Ela to play next to me? The Ela at range is definitely not an operator that you're going to be using effectively. So, yes, I understand what they have to fall back and play from below in the hatch, but it's not. It doesn't fix the fact that Mira was peeking against the players that were pushing from the Armory wall. So all of these mistakes combined to basically give NIP the advantage because you saw them didn't really get aggressive outside of the Ying. All they did was just hold the angle and push the Ying into them with Candelas. And bam, what are you going to do? You're either going to die to the Ying or die from the crossfire.
I mean, there was a good fight back on the PZD. He did get downed inside of CCTV, but at that point, I mean, they didn't have the presence to cover the possible pickup and get a kill, or even two. I mean, there's a good belief that if you can down somebody and use them as bait, you can possibly jump on that and get a good opportunity to take care of both of them. Boot Camp was just being held down by angles from Nip. There was really no opportunity whatsoever for them to be able to get that rotate that they needed to possibly put numbers in their advantage. So as for Nip, that was a good start, but that's only one round. It's going to be interesting to see if Boot Camp can tighten this one up. As well, because of the way the map picks work, the 5 of them, we don't have the information in front of us as to whether this is Nip's or Boot Camp's map. Now, of course, a team like Nip, who has so much success on a wide variety of maps, will probably assume that they're going to be comfortable on all 5 of them. So, I mean, it could potentially be a wash. Canadian yesterday in the community cast was saying how many times would somebody pick a map and then end up still getting slammed on it. You know, it's not a given that you're going to do well on your own map choice, so no real use for us speculating. However, they're now, Boot Camp is now going to be downstairs, and they're going to lead things off with a C4 from Intact, taking out the Hibana, the sole hard breacher. That's an oof if I've ever seen one. They're going to use one Lion to push in, but Duds is there. He's going to take one down and now go for the Blitz, but Julio is going to be hard to push off, as of course, that shield operator isn't going to have much of an opportunity to be able to get shot at. Intact got another. Kamikaze gets the first kill for Nip, but right now this is looking like a very good round for BK.
Yeah, well, Julio just trying to survive in this one. Here's Kamikaze finally comes in on a Lion, saves him, and at least tries to turn it into an equilibrium, but Boot Camp are still a man up with M-King. There's no C4 even available here for Lepsord, as we saw the first kill going his way against the Hibana. And I wonder if Palu has one to play on the Valkyrie. But they have to drop in, and this is one of the sites where if you don't have top control, that's already a difficult one to go for. And then if you have the man disadvantage, that's even worse. Palu, not needing even the C4, will spray in, and Lepsord, the last one on to Kamikaze. Boot Camp. Seeing a lot of teams, when they're caught between a rock and a hard place, what they're going to go for is just Teller's bathroom.
Well, I think you have to go for Teller's bathroom at that point, because the front section of ventilations is very difficult for you to take if you don't have any smokes.
There's no thermite here.
And very difficult for you to take if you can't establish control above. You basically cannot get a plant off in vents unless you have somebody playing up an armory with those open holes looking down to choke off rotates, or you have smokes to possibly get a plant in. As well, we've seen good maestros be able to try and hold off vents, which means that your skirmish is always going to be over the workshop aspect of it, at which case the bathroom is the most logical place for you to push from. You have to take control of Tellers. If there's somebody playing in customs or the lobby area just by customs or by Tellers, then, you know, you're not going to be able to get that push off successfully. And yeah, not having a thermite, that's a huge hindrance to being able to take that site. they had a Lion and a Blitz left. There was no utility for them on the board.
At the end, you can't really blame them for being like, okay, well, our only shot is to jump on in or to play from the back stairs. But
they had no hard breachers, and Boot Camp saw that they needed to get a push to the site, and basically there were 3 ways for them to actually get to the site. The main stairs, which you're not going to do because there's too many angles for you to cover, the possible lobby stairs, or the hatch inside of offices up top. So we saw
all 3 of them are risky.
Yeah, and and 2 of them are from the same angle, which is why we saw Boot Camp change their stance and look towards those 2 areas. And then the moment the Lion went off, they thought, okay, they're probably going to drop the hatch. That's what they're using the Lion for. A smoke went down, and then it was very good.
Yeah, once you break it down, it makes a lot more sense because sometimes it's not very clear the choices that were made, and some people will be like, oh, why did they do that? Well, looking at the position, there's the bigger picture. It's not an easy thing to really go up and blame the teams. Oh, you did this. You didn't have many options that were really viable, and you're not going to be always setting up all of your engagements for a 1v1 win.
Right.
It's not going to work out.
No, I mean, at that point, I think it was what? It was a 2v3, and you just got a shield and a Lion. Shield is Julio. Great blitz, mind you, but very low on health. So.
All right. Well, round 3 now. Boot Camp, of course, still on the defenses. Even though this is not a best of 1, we still play the Pro League format, which means that 5 rounds on defense, 5 rounds on attack. And if you tie, because yes, you can, you go to a best of 3 overtime, just like we've all been used to in Season 7 and before that. But Wild will start off with his X-Kairos and soften things up onto the armory wall. Psycho coming in with the drone on the IQ, making sure that nobody will contest in the workshop. We've seen a lot of teams employ pulses downstairs to chuck C4s up. Those have been a bit difficult to deal with unless you have an attacker that can really go for the frag heavy game. And this is one of my favorite positions in a drone. Very difficult to deal with if you're on the defense because you're not always really expecting it, and you still get a great angle if you are on the attack. They'll try to go for the spot, and Psycho, without even putting himself really in the harm's way, he'll get the shot on the mirror window to open things up. So they don't even need a twitch in this one. They already forced Boot Camp to forego one of the 2 mirror windows.
So a lot of good utility being brought from NIP, and I like what they have at their disposal. They've got those 4 sets of grenade. Paula is there, so of course the ADSs are going to be crucial, but you've got a Zofia, and you're likely going to be running flashes on the Lion to try and take them out of action. A grenade will go up through Sandwich. There's no ADS there to catch it. However, Psycho's not going to hit anybody with it. If he did, he would hit Paula, and Paula's only taken about 20 HP off of his 100, so I mean, at the same time, like, sure, you've been able to soften one person up. It does look like it might have hit him, depending on when he took that damage from. So right now, if you take a look at Boot Camp's positioning, they've managed to stack a lot of bodies up in the back half of the bomb site, over by B, in archives. But what's intriguing is they don't really have any map control. They don't really have any roamers. They've only got 40 seconds left to go, Gassan. And it's a position where, if this Lion is used correctly, Boot Camp could possibly be shredded. There is no Ying for Nip, though, and that's another big thing. Psycho's going to get the first kill. That's Lipe down as he gets pushed in. Everybody from Boot Camp frozen in place. Nip realizes they're going to have to take this small office. Flash is going in. Possible grenade getting primed. Psycho gets another, but Kamikaze is traded off by Intact. So Nip has been able to pull one out. SMG-11 in there, going for the softening up on the mirror. He just misses the head, and M-King's going to pop up a big double for M-King. And Duds jumps in too now. It's all up to Psycho with M-King there for 3 from inside a small office. What a rally from the Mira. Good thing she wasn't abandoned. Boot Camp's going to take their first lead of the game.
Yeah. You mentioned something important. You mentioned there was no Ying available. However, there was still a Zofia. And, Zofia, good operator. So, still has 4 concussion nades to chuck into the site to help things out. Just why were you only limited to the Habana flashbangs? I am not sure. So we'll get to see how they actually change this one around. And will NIP actually change around to the Buck? That'll be the real question here. Are they going for more of a grenade-heavy setup?
6 grenades and no Jaeger. You're going to have to swap off if you're Boot Camp. Somebody's probably going to have to go. I would imagine probably Duds will be the pick here. 2 grenades will be taken out, but you've still got 4 with no ADS. If I'm Boot Camp, you got to figure the L has probably got to go to a Jaeger. That seems like a smart pick. You've at least got a roamer with a great gun, but Boot Camp doesn't look like they're going to do it. Intact, will swap off to a mute. So, all right, very interesting for them. They're going to be going down to, it looks like it's going to be Ventilation.
Yep.
Of course, I don't speak Portuguese.
It is.
Okay. So they're going to go down to Ventilation Workshop downstairs, and there's going to be a lot of grenades at their disposal. Now, not bringing the buck is okay because you've got Sledge. What I said about this site in particular that we're looking at right now, which is the B site, which is Ventilations, you cannot really successfully plant it. I mean, you can. Anything can happen. So when we say you can't do this, you technically can. But most of the time, if you want to plant there, you need to establish control of half wall up in Armory, usually by breaking holes in the floor, clearing out all of Armory up top, and then making sure that you have somebody watching from the window and or the main doorway. Now, you've got a Sledge at your disposal to break open that floor and watch, and then possibly nade as well down into the usual rotate that we saw the castle make in the wall by Ventilation. So it's a good opportunity. It's a good opportunity right now to see how Boot Camp is going to do on defense, because it looks like they're stacking most of their bodies up top. They might even only keep one body on site. They don't have a smoke. You might be probably keeping the Mirror or Castle downstairs, maybe the Maestro, but I would imagine the rest are probably going to be up top.
I completely agree. The fact that they swapped the smoke off to a mute, that signals one thing to me, which is we're going to try to hold the top floor for as long as possible, and if anything, we will contest from that top floor. And, well, since there's no buck, we'll try to make things a bit more difficult. It's up to Boot Camp to see how well they actually hold this, because a lot of teams have tried. Not many have succeeded in this situation, because it turns into a standard Armory push. And with the setup that NIP is bringing in terms of pure operators, it's definitely not an impossibility. Here, Julio trying to come in with his combatant, trying to take down the mute jammer. Already gets that done, but the mirror window is still available. Now, if you lose that mirror window, you will probably have to rotate away, because it is very difficult to contest the angle.
Now, the one thing that I think Boot Camp is keenly aware of, which could have possibly been a driving factor as to why they didn't run the ADS, and PZD is going to get tagged up, take some damage. You can see, I believe that was the Maestro that's going to drop through the hatch. The grenade will go down. Paul has taken almost half of his health off, but I think Boot Camp has read the push and they've tried to fall off. You wasted about half of the round, so good on clock management, but now an opportunity for Boot Camp to, you know, potentially get back to site with their lives intact. I was going to say, the one thing that Boot Camp has read with those grenades, you can use them through that mesh netting, or the netting up top, whatever you want to call it, which is exactly how that first grenade went. You see that one grenade's been used from the IQ as well. There's no projectiles available for NIP at the moment to take out those Evil Eyes, except for possible frag grenades or Sledge's hammer. And in order to do that with the hammer, you got to get real close to them. A lot of teams are, you know, keenly aware of that, and will probably put them in places where you can't be vulnerable enough to hit them with the hammer. So they realize that they might not need the ADSs, but this could be a really shrewd move, assuming that NIP will try and save that utility to take out the Evil Eyes.
We'll see if NIP has already droned the fact out. See if they know those normal rotation positions, and that's really what NIP have been looking for, but not a second too soon. Parker, 30 seconds left on the clock, and the second kill will go the way of the IQ. The Maestro Apollo, as you mentioned, has already taken damage, but M-King will sit on the site as Duds on the server for the rotation. M-King still holding advance, just waiting until the push happens, but a peek from Paulo will nail him the kill onto Kamikaze. He'll get detected though, and Wog will contest. They have not spotted the Ella upstairs. Duds will get one. M-King for the second to turn it into a 2v2. Duds is low on health, but a diffuser will be set right at the last second. A push from the bathroom and the hatch. The Armory. Wog with a quick peek, spraying his entire mags really into the one player trying to contest him. He'll find the angle, but M-King a bit too quick for him on the draw. All up to Julio. Just holding with the F2. Does he even know? He can hear the tickers once they go for the diffuser pick, and here we go. He'll get the kill on Duds. Spray in. He still has 10 rounds in the magazine. He cannot expose himself, however. M-King will try to go for diffuser. He'll try to fake it the first time. 7 rounds remaining in the magazine. He'll have to stick it, but Julio, all he needs is one. One shot, one kill gets M-King down, and NIP, a struggle of a round, really, to get.
So that whole round started off with NIP not doing really enough work to drone out Armory.
Yeah.
You had Duds basically sitting inside of that small office with nobody watching him, and then Intact tried to go for the rotate through CCTV. For NiP, I'm sure this was probably planned. They had Julio there on flank watch and was able to dispatch the mute. That could have been a very hairy situation. Could have gone south for them really fast if nobody was watching, because Intact was actually in a position where he could have managed to work his way through CCTV and scoop up a couple members of NiP that were playing inside of office. After that happened, Duds was able to fall off. NiP was running out of time, and instead of bothering to figure out where the anchors were playing, which at that moment were Duds and I believe MKing, who was playing as the castle, they just pushed the site and tried to outduel them. Wog was in a position where it's kind of indefensible that he missed all of his magazines on the Ella playing. That sticks to me that there could have been some comms going on in his ear, maybe a bit of shakiness, some nervousness in regards to where the push was coming from, because they'd gotten the diffuser down and Wog was trying to waste time. But at that point in the post plant, Wog's job is not just to waste time, he's to eliminate everybody that's left, along with Julio. That was a tough situation for Boot Camp when they had Julio up top. Really, I just didn't see a scenario in where Boot Camp were going to be able to take Julio out. The UMP through the floor is not a fully reliable weapon to be able to take somebody down. I mean, a headshot's still a headshot, fine.
But still, lower rate of fire.
Lower rate of fire. You're shooting blind, you know, and then you've got all those openings where you're incredibly vulnerable. That was a lockdown.
Half of your shots minimum will hit into the railing, and it's
you're also trying to do this while knowing that you're running out of time.
Exactly.
So you're trying to balance it all, realizing that, hey, the clock is still going.
You're trying to thread the needle as they're literally just tapping on your shoulder all.
Try to thread that needle while the needle is moving around, and that hole is getting smaller by the second. It's not really doable for them, and that for NiP was. I mean, it was a shaky round for NiP. It really shouldn't have gotten that close, I think. Boot Camp have been doing a very good job at taking fights and winning them. Now, mind you, the first round that Boot Camp won was really good, really tactical, the one that they won downstairs on Vents. But interesting to me.
What I like from NIP is that they changed things around and realized, you know, the Ying isn't banned. Let's put PZD on that, and let's try to play that again, just like we did before.
Wait a minute here. Am I wrong on the math? Was it a different site? It was at Vent's second site? Because
Teller's bathroom.
Was it Teller's bathroom
Yes.
second? Okay, because that's me. What was that?
That was okay. It seemed as if there was a bandit battery behind it when there's no bandit to be found.
Yeah, that was confusing.
Right.
All right. So they're gonna go back down. It looks like they're back down in
They're gonna take control of CCTV office. I guess they realize there's nobody in there, so instead of coming in from this side,
it looks like there's going to be vents, and look at how aggressive they're going to get. And why? Because for some reason, NiP left a default cam still up. They will trade out Wog for Duds. So you lose your Ella, okay, but you lost your Hibana. That is a big win for Boot Camp in the first 90 seconds. And yeah, NiP, that information was given to Boot Camp, was gifted to them.
Yep.
Because they didn't take out the default cam. You saw the mute of Intact making the call saying, all right, they're pushing, and both Duds and Intact went for the kill, and they were rewarded by taking care of Wog.
This is the thing, Boot Camp have brought MKing on the castle. The only soft destruction technically has just been removed. No more grenades in the back pocket of NIP. And dealing with castle barricades with 46 seconds left on the clock is just not something that is easy to do. But Paulo will get taken down. I guess at this point, NIP might just turn on the fragmobile because they're going to need it. And unfortunately, it's kind of a diesel at this point. Intact will get one. Kamikaze will be able to refrag, however, but there is 30 seconds left on the clock as the castle rotates in to hold the office.
We've still got lots of utility possible if PZD has his Candelas at his disposal, and there might be one EE1D left for the Lion. I'm not entirely certain because we haven't been able to see where they're currently at with their equipment levels. But that is still a good opportunity. They are getting marked, and there's a Candela. The Ying will just sprint right in. Light will give his position away and lose the duel to PZD, and MKing will mark himself as he moves. Great amount of utility, good execution, plant going down. And unfortunately for Boot Camp, MKing just cannot outduel Kamikaze, the Lion, will get the final kill, and Nip will take 3 of the 5 rounds starting on attack, and they'll move to defense. And I think that's pretty good because looking at these operator bans, I think this definitely hinders the attack. The fact that a Thermite and a Dokkaebi are taken out of action, to be able to walk away with 3 of those first 5 rounds, you're now going to be on defense. You've been very fortunate to do that without having to deal with the smoke and the disturbance that Dokkaebi's gadget brings. And of course, one of the most powerful operators on this site, on all sites on this map, which is Thermite.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Yesterday, of course, Troy, Canadian, was on your stream talking about this, about, you know, like maps that are more heavy on the attack, more heavy on the defense. And I brought it up last night with Kix during the cast, and we ended up in the conversation saying there are maps that definitely have specific sites that favor one side or the other. However,
absolutely,
you cannot just clearly off of that distinguish attack or defense favored because of the operator bans. And if you can target specific operator bans, they'll make things a lot more difficult for attackers or defense. You mentioned the Thermite on border, extremely strong operator no matter which site you go for. Banning that, yes, definitely give the advantage to the defense. As you mentioned, 3 rounds for Nip as they go on the defense this time. They should theoretically have the advantage.
I mean, we don't need to go too far back just to show that that makes perfect sense. And a good example as well could be the last EU Play Day we just had. Both Vitality and Supremacy, as well as IDK and Orglis, competed on Oregon. Both of them did. In the Vitality Supremacy game, Ying and Hibana were banned on attack. On defense, it was Mira and Mute. Okay, so you ban Hibana, you also ban ban Mira. It's kind of a wash. Mute is not a necessity on Oregon. He's very strong, and this is something that we'll get back to when we talk about the IDK Orglis matchup. But Supremacy and Vitality, there were, you know, there were 5. It was 5-3 with the defense doing very well. The defense being the real showcase. Look at IDK Oregon. Or Orglis on Oregon, it was Ying and Thatcher who were banned. So Hibana was open, which gives a huge benefit to the attackers. While on Echo and Mira were banned, there was 1 defensive victory of 10 rounds. 9-1 for attack. And even then, I noted this on the broadcast, IDK's defensive win was literally given to them because Orglis's push was about 5 seconds too slow. Orglis should have been able to win that one, in which case it would have been 10 rounds for the attackers. So it really just comes down to what's banned, how do the teams play around the ban, what map it is, what the site rotation is too.
And here's the thing, I don't think we have stats for this one, unfortunately, which is Finka. Finka is being brought in by Bootcamp, and this is not something that you'll ever see outside of Latin America.
Yes.
It'll even get to the point where Latin America will ban Finka because they know that specific teams have strategies that are built all around it. And it's a scary thing to think about. You know, Finka definitely can add a lot of fragging power and maybe save some of your players that take a bit of damage during engagements, but we haven't really seen her able to add a lot to the table compared to really any other operator on the attack.
The only region that plays her with reliability, like you pointed out, is Latin America. Yeah. Pain in particular plays her a lot. Yuna is routinely playing the Finka, and sometimes running the LMG as well, which I think is...
It makes a lot more sense.
I think the LMG on Finka is the smartest move, personally. I much prefer it over, you know, the standard assault rifle that she uses. But at the same time, Finka enables a style of play that's very all-in. It's, you have to go. And, you know, a Lion Finka push is very powerful, but you see on Nip, they've got 2 great counters. Number 1, her biggest counter is smoke, and that's what WOG almost always plays on defense. You take so much more damage when a Finka boost is active, and as well, a Legion Mine will stop your boost in its tracks. It doesn't matter if it's the 1st second or the 19th second of the boost. It's all over. But with that said, Duds right now playing on top of vents, looking through the window. We'll get a couple shots to try to take down that barricade as Palu works his way through East Main. And there goes the first Finka boost. So there's still 2 adrenaline surges left for them if need be. Lots of fragging potential to go with that. You've got the C8 of the Buck, who some people will say that the recoil can be a bit unmanageable, but with a Finka boost becomes a bit easier. Then you've got Hibana and Ash, who with a Finka boost are particularly terrifying. I am a little surprised that we don't see a shield. Second adrenaline burst will go out from the Finka as right now, Boot Camp's all spread out. They haven't been able to get control of CCTV. They're still trying to struggle to get inside of Archives, but the first kill is going to go to Paula. He absolutely just sprays into Kamikaze, but Paula will be taken down and finished off by PZD. One Lion charge goes out. The Buck will push in. Julio manages to win that one and goes for a second. Gets it down onto Duds. So this Mira putting in great work. M-King insight. He'll finish off Julio and be going for the plant. Life is still watching CCTV, and you can see right now PZD is in there, but Wog will finish off M-King, and that's Nip locking things down. This is what I said. The defense should be winning based on these bans, and there you go. Nip will get their first defensive victory, and they're going to claw themselves just a little bit closer to putting this map away.
Yeah, and Bootcamp tried to be a bit sly with that pick on the Finca. Fortunately, you mentioned something that is extremely important. Why no shield?
Shields in Finca are horrifying.
Yes.
I don't know Bootcamp well enough, unfortunately, to know if there's anybody in that team who has a shield amongst their repertoire. You know, you look at Pain Gaming, they've got Yuna, who's been playing Finca, but can also play the shield. Julio, Mav on Phase, Sexy Cake on Liquid. These are the teams we know that run Blitz in particular really reliably. It's really the only region that we ever see Blitz run is Latin America. Now we've been seeing a lot of Montaigne in both EU and NNA, and obviously his job is to be an extended shield, so he's not always going to be that powerful with the Finca boost the same way a Blitz would be.
Yeah, they fill different roles. There's quite a few operators in the game where you compare the two, and on the outside you see, oh, they have a shield. Yeah, it's the same thing.
Right.
No, they fill completely different roles within your team, and you can't really play them the same way. And we've been seeing, you know, for example, this happened a couple days ago where it'll be a push into bank CCTV, and the attack will be running a blitz to try and go for a plant. Like, just bring the Monty. He's much better at that.
Yes.
He'll negate the C4 damage if it's thrown behind him because he has the shield on his back. Why do you not do that? Well,
or you even bring the Montaigne to shield the plant.
Exactly. Which sometimes team, even at the professional level, kind of makes some mistakes that really make you question the decision making.
Well, I mean, there's the one thing for us that can be a little difficult, and we can get an appropriate amount of flack from teams for this. You know, I've obviously been critical of certain things I've seen, and then teams have said, well, you know, the actual strategy behind it is this. You know, and that's fine. There is strategy behind certain moves that we might look at it at face value and be like, this is very puzzling, but it could end up being a pretty decent strategy that we just don't know the full scope of, right? You know, a good example of that yesterday, Obey versus SK. SK, I think, very definitively won the operator ban phase. They banned, if I remember correctly, they banned like Smoke and I think Thermite. And we thought, okay, SK is a team that kind of runs cheesy strats. Yeah. They run shields, they run Dokkaebi, they run Glass, they run Lion, you know, they go all in. Very similar to Latin America style of plays, how they go, you know, feast or famine. And we thought, okay, well, this is great. You know, SK's in a position where we can see some really interesting things on how they push. We can see the Yings, we can see the Glasses, we can see the Dokkaebis, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then SK proceeded to run completely standard lineups and try to take through server, knowing that there wasn't a Thermite. And I was really underwhelmed with what we saw. Obey was able to just slap them down every single time they tried to push. So it is a bit confusing, and I mean, we were critical of it, but then, you know, they turn around and they say, well, actually, the reason why we banned them was this, that, or the other thing. All right, cool. But our job is to analyze, and that's what we're going to do.
Yeah, basically. Well, Leipzig has taken control of the CCTV offices. Right now, they're just spotting around where NIP are set. And you know what? PZD is going to give them a bit of a smile and hello. It'll get the first kill on the Buck of all operators. The Mira's playing from downstairs, partner. This is definitely something that well, Bootcamp might not be ready for, and you'll see the second kill come the way of the Jaeger. The Buck is the first, the second is the Lion removed. It'll definitely make this attack a bit more complicated, as we say that. The Ash will come in and get the headshot on PZD to clean him up. Palu setting up for a push. You see the ADS is still in the archives. M-King has opened up the crossfire, and will try to shut down the rotations.
Those were two pretty critical blows. You lose the Lion and the Buck. Now the one thing is that the Buck, other than losing the grenades and Julio with C4 onto Paula, will mean that it's just a Zofia and Hibana left. I mean, mind you, you're still pretty comfortable. I don't know how many XKROS M-King has used at this point with 50 seconds to go. Probably should have exhausted all of them, but still has 2 bursts, actually. Interesting to know where he's going to try to prioritize that. You know, there could potentially be a Mira, but you've got 40 seconds left. You don't really have the luxury to get those 2 rounds of XKROS down to try and take care of some of the possible reinforcements that are down. A rotate from Bootcamp will head to the main stairs. That's M-King and Life Blast together. I was going to say, losing the Buck early, not terrible, because you still had the Ashe and the Zofia. The Zofia does look like she's still got some gadgetry left in that lifeline, but not entirely sure how much. This is exactly what Boot Camp is going to need to do. They're going to use about 5 of their last 20 seconds to open up a wall that is vaultable inside of bathroom. But look at that. Those bathroom walls are totally soft. Nip is either hoping for a bait or potentially a late push. Another smoke will choke out M-King, and both Leipzord and the Hibana will have to move in towards the doorway. Psycho will get one. Lipe takes down Psycho, but no time left. Wog will finish things up. Even if the timer was out, Nip still getting credited with the kill. That's still a low-impact frag, technically for Wog, even though he locks the round down. And Nip is now on match point. 2 defensive wins, and that's exactly what should have happened. Boot Camp shouldn't have been able to let Nip take that many rounds on attack.
Yeah, it's we understand that it's a complicated thing to go through. You know, changing your entire mindset or how the match flows throughout it when you've been used to playing in a certain way for a couple of years at this point.
Right.
However, there is still a easy to understand logic behind the change and the way that you have to play with it. It starts off with the bans that make things a bit less cut and dry or black and white, saying, oh, this site is just better for the attack, this site is better for the defense, or this map, etc. You just can deal with all of this by having the operator bans, and that's why you have to keep those in mind. Now, I'm not sure if the alibi ban was a targeted ban, but I don't really think it's having too much of an impact on NIP's play so far.
Yeah, I mean, this is the one thing that for us is going to be the most interesting, right? Is let's tie it back to what you said. Operator bans are a pretty good indicator of whether the attack or defense should win, but it's not the be-all and end-all.
Exactly.
I don't, you know, I think this will probably be the last time that I say this unless something major breaks or changes over the next couple rounds. As we're on match point for NIP, they are 1 round away from sending us to Consulate as our second matchup. But the bans at face value, and Alibi is interesting. I still think, you know, even if NIP knows how to use Alibi strats, I still think that's unwise for them to possibly ban an Alibi. I don't know the thought process behind that, and maybe NIP has been running a lot of Alibi, as you said. Well, we don't know. But the Echo ban, okay, fine, but Maestro is a you know, a viable substitute in this scenario, and we've seen actually a lot of Maestro getting played on this map in particular because it's got positions where you can sink an Evil Eye in real deep, put an ADS around it, force the attackers to waste a lot of gadgets to try to take care of that Evil Eye. But this ban phase, like I said, this very much heavily favors the defense, and I think we're seeing right now that Boot Camp just realized they don't have enough tools I think that they need, and they're getting picked early, which is what NIP is trying to do. NIP is trying to get 1 or 2 picks because Boot Camp, by and large, with the exception of this Ashe pick, Boot Camp has been going very all-in on utility. Yep. Trying to get grenades, trying to get soft destruction on the board, running, obviously, the Hibana, which is a necessity here. And if they can take that fight and possibly take down a Buck or a Zofia or a Hibana, your Jaeger is in very, very good position.
Well, Intact will try to get some angle, and there we go. That's the one that he wants. Primarily take down the mirror window that is just holding on the entrance into the armory.
That's a good start.
Yep, that's a pretty good start here. Might be the one that they're looking for. And 2 kills the way of Duds on the Zofia. And he only takes 50% damage. To say that, Wog will come in and take him out. But mirror removed, which means 1 C4 out of play and a pretty darn tough SMG to deal with up close. Out of play, and of course the 416 removed off of the Jaeger, which limits your long-range fighting capability if you're NIP. So what NIP will try to do is force Boot Camp into closer range engagements where they can try to shine with either the shotgun, on Wog, his smoke. Unfortunately, the Astrus runs on up from the top side, finding the angle, and gets the kill on the Legion. That is a huge frag before he's even able to set up all of his goo mines. One more as they're all being chained now, but this one for NIP is Intact will go down. C4 being brought in by PZD. Second one that they have, Wog holding in the ventilation.
Yeah, so I mean, that was the start of this round could be totally credited to Duds, but I mean, NIP is fighting back valiantly. Wog will now take down Lipe, and exhaust one of his smokes. He's still got 2 left.
The diffuser, that's the thing.
Yeah,
that's the important part.
And he's got control of the diffuser, which is vital, you know, for the team right now. M King and Paula, as good fragging potential as they might have. Oh, M King will go for a spray, trying to catch Wog, but PZD will eliminate Paula and put us in a 1v1. The MP7 versus the double firepower of a Hibana, both with that bearing and her assault rifle. We'll have to get vulnerable for 7 seconds, as there's only 20 seconds left. We'll have to go for a plant. But I think M King realizes that you can't really give it all with the Bandit, but on a shot from PZD. M King is finished off, and that is Nip putting 3 on defense in a row. The closest round that Boot Camp is going to get to possibly taking this will be lost. And that's the start that Nip needs. And they need to have a second map like this right away, because then at that point you're forcing Boot Camp to have to reverse sweep you, which is something that we don't see happen all that often.
-6 Invitational, but that was definitely
minus the 6 Invitational, but is Boot Camp Penta? That's, you know,
no.
Boot Camp is no Penta. No. So Ninjas in Pajamas will take map number 1, setting us up for Consulate as map 2. Interestingly enough, like I said, those bans shook out as much as you needed. You know, 3 rounds on attack for Nip, but the rest was all for the defense. You know, the other 5, and good. That's where it should have been, looking at these bans, looking at the way that this played out. And we'll set out for Consulate. So Boot Camp got beaten in the operator ban phase. How are they going to do on Consulate now? Because there's a couple operators that you can really look at. You know, Sledges run a lot by Ninjas in Pajamas. Glazes run a lot by Ninjas in Pajamas. Obviously, on Consulate, a Thermite ban makes a ton of sense.
I think Ying plus Blackbeard would be a perfect ban for a team that wants to play in the top floor and in the console chambers and projector. Because once you have to deal with the Blackbeard, all he has to do really is to play on the balcony and hold the connector room, and that's it. And you'll oftentimes find him repositioning himself to fight even up to the bathroom if he has the angle for it. So the Ying facilitates it by just adding a bit more aggressive power to jump in.
Right.
I think those 2 operators being removed definitely gives the advantage to the defense if they play in the lobby or they play on the top floor in the Consulate chambers. Garage, not so much the case, because obviously if you ban the Thermite, then it'll make it a lot easier. You kind of have to choose. Do I 50-50 it and just make sure that Garage will be a bit easier for me, but then CEO, I don't really push it to the maximum potential, you know, winnable position? Got to be smart about it. And of course, it depends on which operator your opponent will ban. So I think depending on which team is banning first, the second team should be able to react to it ASAP and say, okay, they banned Blackbeard. Okay, either we ban the Thermite or we make sure that we can play the top 2 floors pretty much the entire game.
The thing with Nip is that they've got such a flexible role. I don't know about Boot Camp. Do Boot Camp have a viable Blackbeard player? Because there's nobody in my head who jumps out at Nip that usually plays Blackbeard. So if there's a Blackbeard ban coming, it would probably be from Nip towards Boot Camp. I don't see Boot Camp probably using that.
I mean, you can put the Glaz in Blackbeard's position as well.
You can.
It's the same, I guess.
You can, and Ying is particularly strong on Consulate as well. You know, we saw PZD used her a number of times, so it wouldn't be too much of a surprise to see that. But we're heading to Consulate. As quickly as it started, we'll get right into it. Boot Camp will be on defense yet again to start things off. They will also get first ban, as the way that the banning works. They will ban the attacking. Actually, no, it looks like Nip is actually going to get first ban. That is intriguing. All right.
Though Nip have run Ying in border, so I'm not really expecting them to go for it, and Thermite will be removed.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
Thermite, you know, and BK, or Boot Camp, like you call them BK, and I think of
BK 201.
Yeah. So
he's the only BK in our hearts.
Boot Camp will find themselves in a position, you know, where there's going to be no Thermite available for them. They'll ban Ying. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So because there's no real, you know, extraordinary talented Blackbeard in the lobby, it makes sense for them to not potentially ban a Blackbeard. And then Glaz, I mean, Glaz could have made sense, but I think Ying empowers far more. You know, as a Glaz, though, there's going to be a potential for a Dokkaebi to be worked with a Glaz. You've also got a smoke that smokes from Blitz that could also potentially be worked. So, interesting here. Mira is going to be the 3rd ban. On Consulate, Mira is not always a must ban because there's one site, maybe 2, where a lot of teams can be successful without running her. It's really only the garage downstairs where she seems to be a requirement for teams. At least that's the way they perceive it. And Nip will ban an Echo for the 2nd time in a row, which makes a lot of sense. They obviously don't want to deal with that. And you've known that Nip doesn't really run a Thatcher. Nip doesn't really run an IQ, so it makes a lot of sense to get rid of the Echo.
I look at all of these 4 ops, I'm like, if you pick Garage, you have an advantage in terms of, you know, there's no Thermite, there's no Ying. So you shouldn't be too afraid of going for it.
So actually, Nip is going to start on defense. That's why they were able to get the first ban. I was a little thrown off by the...
Oh, there we go. They go Garage first.
And they, well, of course, you got to go
Makes sense.
Garage first, right? I mean, you got the Thermite out of it. You need to try
Yeah.
and you need to try and bleed Boot Camp dry and see exactly what can happen. M King is actually going to be running the Blackbeard, so this just can be a lack of familiarity with Boot Camp as a team. Maybe he does reliably run Blackbeard, but that's something that we'll figure out over the next 5 rounds. As for this composition, I mean, you've got a lot of opportunity to attack. They see that there's a Blackbeard running a Pulse. Interesting here. Pulse you don't really see downstairs in the Garage. We've seen teams actually do this where they will pick a site and they will pick operators that give you an illusion that it's another site and then 6 pick off. We saw this yesterday on Border in particular. Castle was picked upstairs on Armory, which was the site, and you're almost never going to really run it. Some teams will, but for the most part, you're not going to run a Castle upstairs.
It's mostly
on
for
Armory.
ventilation.
It's mostly for vents. So you can psych out a team and make them think, oh, they've got a Castle. Okay, we know they're starting off on vents. Let's make a 6 pick, you know, to respond to that, and then you 6 pick off the Castle and say, ha, I gotcha.
Mind games.
Mind games all the way down. So that's part of the things about the 6 pick, which is, as a mechanic, has I think taken some flack from people for not particularly being as useful as I think a lot of people wanted it to be. But it's definitely, as teams are starting to get used to it, we're definitely starting to see that there's a usage for it to try and trick up teams.
I think as one of the developers, Mr. Smoothie, aka Jean-Baptiste Halle, you know, he tweeted out and he was saying, you know, what do you think about the new changes, etc. after the first couple of days of Pro League? And I responded, you know, I'm not too sold on the 6 picks just yet. And
I said the same thing. I actually went so far as to say get rid of it.
And I was very close to that, to agree with you. But once we got through the 2nd week, teams started getting used to it, and we started to see the effectiveness of you know, playing the mind games to your advantage in the way that we were theorizing about it at the start of the season. So yes, I think we're starting very much to get deeper into the meta very early on in the season, I have to say. Teams have been outstanding so far.
And I mean, if we can just take the next couple seconds before we start to actually get into the action here. You saw that there was, the Garage was actually already taken. There's no Bandit and there's no, well, I mean, there is a Mute, but they really didn't use it on that Garage wall whatsoever. Two of the 3 bursts of the XKROs from Hibana were used to open up a small walkway into that Garage if need be, as the rest of Boot Camp reorganizes themselves. Teams had a lot to adjust to over the last couple weeks. You know, it's been a pretty exhausting learning curve. From what I've heard from the teams, it's been non-stop grinding to figure out 6 picks, site rotation, operator bans, etc., and work around that while in a potential best of 1, best of 3, or best of 5 series, depending on whether they're looking at DreamHack, whether they're looking at here, whether they're looking at the Paris Major, etc. So teams will slowly start to figure it out. We're fairly confident of that. You know, these are the best teams in the world. They're going to get to that point. But halfway through round number 1, and Boot Camp have made some pretty good strides. They've taken down some of the barbed wire that was situated on yellow stairs so they can get a push down with greater ease. They've opened up part of the Garage. You will hear a smoke go off. That's likely Wog using it to try and stop a push, and he's going to get hit from above. As you can see, there's a Buck up there. He's going to throw a Toxic Babe, actually threading that needle, if we can reuse that phrase. Julia will get the first kill onto Life, take out the Dokkaebi before she can be super effective. Apollo will eliminate Wog, and then also get Buck back up. So Intact brought back from the dead. It's a big play for the action. Yeah,
Nip losing Wog here. This is it's not a great position to be in, but we've seen how strong the Dokkaebi can be. Intact forgetting that he had the Skeleton Key out. We'll change it around. Just open up a bit more of the floorboards here to possibly ease his way into a 2nd kill for Boot Camp. As Duds waiting on the outside, playing the even though he's Hibana, it's pretty much like having a Thermite at this point. Just sit around, wait until everybody's in position, and then you try to collapse on the site. Not Paulo though. In the meantime, makes it a bit easier for them as he gets the 2nd kill as well. Julio though, frag and take Intact out. Psycho sets himself up here for the retake now as the fuser's already been set, but Psycho, very difficult for him to contest this, and just because of the angle that was opened up, just one tiny walkway for the diffuser to be brought through onto the fan. Well, you know what? That was more than enough. It prevents the Ella from having a clear angle on the outside of the garage. Has to deal with the Ash. Unfortunately, R4C a lot easier to control at that distance. Plus the ACOG. That'll be the victory for Boot Camp in round number 1. Even though we were saying the operator bans definitely favor the defense on garage.
On garage, absolutely. Well, I would actually say that if you can get, so here's how I would break it down.
All right.
If you can take control of the garage and manage to open it up, I think that, and get a push off, I think it greatly benefits the attackers. There's no Mira and no Echo, who are two of the most important operators to stop a plant. You have a Maestro available. We really haven't seen that much Maestro be ran. I think we saw it on Clubhouse yesterday, if I recall correctly. I believe we saw Clubhouse yesterday from Immortals, as well as Nip. I could be wrong, but it did look like we saw a Maestro being played a couple times on Clubhouse. He does get a disproportionate amount of play on that map, especially on CCTV upstairs.
Cashroom definitely has
Cashroom as well. I mean, you don't see him. You don't always see him that much downstairs. But for Nip, they lost their smoke early. There's no Mira. There's no Echo. You really don't have an opportunity at that point to try and stop a plant. When it goes down, your tools are very limited. And I think that's exactly what we saw. Even though the numbers were in a 2v3, which is very winnable just based on simple, numerical values, you had to realize that Boot Camp had full control over that garage. They were holding down yellow. The defenders were a little bit pinched. Paula in particular basically just ran through and killed everybody, which, always helps too.
Yeah.
But, you've lost 2 key operators just from bans alone, and then your third had been picked off early, which was Wog on the smoke, as he got very aggressive.
And that is 100% his fault in that position.
Yeah, and all three of those things are pretty, mortal blows to trying to stop a plant. And then in a post-plant scenario, yeah, you got Nella who can't really take that long-range engagement. When you plant on garage, what's the first thing you do? You get the hell out of there. You run as far away from the diffuser as you can. You train your ACOG on it, and you realize that they have to take you in that potential fight, which, a Scorpion's probably not going to do.
Yeah, 100%. Ella, good operator, but that's not where she shines as CQB. I love that Valkyrie camp position, though. I'm surprised we haven't seen that before. Just by being able to shoot through into the truck. Emzo a couple weeks ago actually reminded me that back in the day you couldn't shoot through that glass.
Right.
So it's a good thing that you can, because we haven't really seen too much of that style of Valkyrie camp being set up. But Leip takes control of his drone, runs on in. He's possibly spotted the goo mine that is set up as well for them on the top barbed wire, and he already listens out for the mute jammer. So he's expecting a player to be playing by the servers. And it will be somewhat correct here, as he should be able to get a spot very soon on the players that are at least holding off in the hallway.
I would imagine that we're probably going to see another garage take from this team, especially with the Buck really in the fray. Buck is probably going to try to make Piano his den and then work away. As you can see, he's in the Aqua Chamber right now, right outside of the main lobby, trying to get the floor, and there's Duds all by himself. You said very similar to the way you'd see a potential thermite being used. Nip, though, have learned from their mistakes, in that if you're going to run somebody to possibly try and take care of that garage, a bandit or a mute are applicable. They use their mute jammers in ways that, well, didn't really work on stopping that garage take. The Buck from above will be able to get some of those mute jammers down, and they basically burned a Lion to get the garage. If you saw, the Lion charge went out to try and freeze everybody in place. The Buck also from above meant that if you moved, you're very vulnerable from the vertical pressure, but also you can't bandit trick successfully, and then they timed that with the Hibana. So good use of the gadgetry from Boot Camp and the tools at their disposal in order to get that garage open. The big question is, who's going to roam? What map control does Nip have at the moment? Because we don't really see them trying to get that aggressive on the main floor. They could all be shepherded downstairs already, being corralled by that Buck. And an EE1D and a Logic Bomb will freeze everybody in place as smoke goes down from Wog to try and keep the push from happening.
All right, Psycho and the rest of his team here at NIP turning off their phones. Make sure that Dokkaebi cannot spot them or ease the way of the attackers into the site, though. As we mentioned, the Dokkaebi still get the kill on Psycho, eliminating the bandit. It's not the end of the world with 15 seconds left on the clock, and the C4 will come out. Wog will get another one with the shotgun. From above, the Buck will be able to get one. Julio will go for the refrag, but Intact just holding The yellow stairs all on his own here on the Buck. They will hear him as he shuffles through the barbed wire. He is in a 1 versus 1. Comes around close, and defense in the meantime just goes in as it's even with the new segmented health, it's kind of difficult to see when people are on so little health. And well, you know what? The Legion, in the meantime, was already on the diffuser. They realized the Buck was in the yellow stairs, and all they had to do is play for time. MPX, yeah, pea shooter at distance, but you get up close, that thing is going to shred you. He's definitely afraid to be in that position. I wonder if the Buck had grenades to potentially use them there at the end. Not sure, but hindsight, probably always 20/20. But
It was, I want to be a bit honest here and say that that was a really terrible spot to plant the diffuser.
yeah, way too far forward.
Way too far forward. You couldn't see enough through the Hibana, you know, opening in the garage. Those X-Caros, that opening in the reinforcement, you can't see the diffuser, to the best of my knowledge, from that angle. It's cut off by the wall to the right. It's also cut off from the van. Unless you establish control inside of that staff area, you can't see it from any other part of the map unless you're above, and in which case, you know, you can't keep the Buck solely above, because then you need other bodies to make sure that you're not getting shot at, especially when, at that point, Nip can double up on you on numbers. So, really confusing. That might have just been a simple act of desperation for Boot Camp. Hard to tell if they scrambled to place the diffuser down, but a story for another day.
They had a decent chunk of time there at the end. I mean, some people might listen to us and be like, oh, why are they being so critical? Well,
Right.
First of all, it's kind of our job to do that. And number two, it is a mistake that when you look at it, you don't have a thermite. You don't have the luxury of a huge hole being opened from the exothermic charge. Use that to your advantage, just like you did in the first round.
The big thing as well that you noticed in that round in particular was the amount of fights that Nip took through those two-way holes opened up onto the main floor and walked away with a victory from is not inexcusable, but you can't lose those fights that many times. I think there was 2 or 3 frags that Nip were able to get that solely came through Julio playing below, shooting up into the areas that were opened previously by the Buck or the Ash, or through the open hatch. So Nip winning their gunfights, which has been a story so far for this team, as they've had pretty pinpoint accuracy for the time being. They've tied things up. Still on defense, they're upstairs. Consulate, of course, a map where all 3 sites make a lot of sense, and let's take a moment to delve into what we're going to see out of the Alibi, because Kamikaze has now 6-picked or flexed onto the Alibi. Boot Camp use that as a target ban on border. I'm very curious to see what Nip is going to try to do with that.
Yeah, I was just going to mention it. Last round, that was a ban that was removed for Boot Camp, and there always is some logic towards the bans that are happening. So I wonder how NIP are going to play it. Now, they are doing things in a much more roam aggressive style. Obviously, they're bringing the Vigil, they're bringing the Alibi. Julio as well will be feeding them information with the Black Eyes. He can turn into a roamer as well because it's a Valkyrie. So can pretty much, it's a fairly flexible operator when it comes to the defense, that's for sure. Rest for the anchor, you got PZD, you got WOG with the Dock and the Smoke. You'll almost never see WOG playing anything other than the Smoke pretty much on the defense. Interestingly enough, Boot Camp are not only bringing the Buck, but they're also bringing duds on the Jackal. And Jackal, for me, is an underrated operator with how much he brings to the table with the smokes, with the ITA, with the C7E. Inox has pretty good utility as well. And you know what? It's perfect when you have to deal with a team that is running full on roam. And you already heard the first ticker that was going around, and you were seeing it. Wonder when duds will be able to spot a second roamer and maybe even go for a kill off of it.
Jackal works really well with Dokkaebi and Lion too. You know, you've got all 3 of those operators on the board. That's going to be hell for your roamers to try to outrun it and try to outgun. You know, Kamikaze will shoot his own clone trying to take care of somebody playing on the windows, but there's nobody home whatsoever. The problem with Jackal is that Jackal's utility in being able to hunt down those roamers, his other real utility is the smoke. You can replace Jackal as long as you're
oh boy,
not killing yourself with grenades to start off with. That's the Buck blowing himself up. Paula is there to at least take one and Nip down and put it at a 4v4. You can see that Nip is just waiting very patiently. Phone calls, the gunfight from Kamikaze will get taken, but Paula, who's been a good shot so far in this matchup, will be dispatched by Julio as Duds answers back, taking out Julio. And WOG, very low on health. PZD probably try to stim him up, and that's what you need to do. But they're going to get picked, and that's a free kill for Duds. WOG gets some life before The second set of logic bombs go off. All the while, Leipzord and MKing just need to hang on because the diffuser is at about halfway through, and Wog will have to burn 4 seconds. Waiting to play on the window. Oh no, Wog turns away for just 1 second. Waiting to see where the Lion is playing, and he's on yellow stairs. He's got his phone still ringing, so this will be very easy for the attackers to know where he is, but Wog will finish him off. He's scarily close, or eerily close to losing out on that diffuser, and there you go. It hits the point. This is a win for Boot Camp. Even if Wog tries to stick the landing, he's going to falter. Boot Camp hangs on. Great job from Boot Camp to lock down and isolate all of NIP off-site and get that plant off as quickly as they did. That's exactly what you're going to bring with a Jackal, a Dokkaebi, and a Lion, and they did it exactly as they needed to do. So Boot Camp able to win the second round.
Yeah, we're closer and closer to a situation that we had on map 1 border. It was 2-1 for Boot Camp. NIB tied it and then got that third round on their attacking side when they were playing there, and then just kept marching on and got 3 rounds in a row on the attacking side, well, on the defensive side afterwards. Here, kind of not hitting the vibe just yet on the defense, but we'll be going for the, well, for the top floor. This is the consulate chamber, so we'll be playing the same side as before. However, they realized, you know what, that roamer style that we were going for, maybe we shouldn't be really playing that because it didn't really work out, which actually leads me to question the alibi ban in the first map. That's for sure. But there you go.
Yeah, that was a head scratcher, obviously, and I'm not, you know, I wasn't too surprised to not see it be as effective as I think they wanted it to be, because alibi was really not much of an impact choice for NIP on that particular round.
Okay, well, see if NIP set this one up. They'll obviously be bringing the Jaeger and this time the Ella. And you know what? They realized we're defending CEO. Well, technically CEO, but it's pretty much console chamber. What's the best thing to bring here, Parker? Well, as a Legion main, I can tell you, Legion. You hold that yellow stairs like nobody's business. You can just put, you know, 2-3 goo mines in there, and it's already a pain to go through it for any attacker, let alone teams in the past that have pretty much walked all 5 players up that yellow stairs. Remind you of relegation to Season 7 for Latin America. But because of this setup from the defensive NIP, Boot Camp are pretty much forced to push into admin. Without taking control of this area, they will need a ton of firepower, either on the balcony or in the console chamber, right on the outside of the window. And the first kill, Paulo, we were mentioning this right before we started the game. The new guy on the team, basically, new blood, he's showing up. He's getting the frags where they matter, and removing the Ella means admin is pretty much free. It's free real estate. It's
and Psycho right there, my god. One thing that I always forget about is how high the sensitivity that Latin America as a region will hold. Right now, Paula's looking for his second kill as the Legion is going to scamper off into the corner, but PZD will have to just simply rely on poor reflexes from Paula as he tries to rotate. He's very vulnerable. A grenade will get thrown out, and Paula will take a couple shots into PZD. PZD and Wog both very low on health now, but the Legion will be dispatched. Paula, a second kill, just spraying into the cubicles, doing great work. A lot of environmental destruction there, but he's going to be rewarded with the second kill to open things up for Boot Camp here. And his good streak will be shut down by Kamikaze. Paula tries to drop down, but Kamikaze is there to remove his head swiftly from his body. Lipe trades off his comrade, though, and Kamikaze dispatched. Julio almost gets a double. He'll get it down, but Duds is able to finish off Julio, and it's just Wog left who's going to get aggressive. He'll throw a gas grenade, and doesn't look like he's going to be able to get the Dokkaebi. So it's essentially a 2v1, even though it shows that it's a 3v1 on that scoreboard, and he's going to use another remote gas grenade, and that should get Leipzord quite easily. Intact and MKing are last 2 left, but Wog leaning the wrong way, exposed in the open. Not a good place to find yourself to be, and Intact is just able to see the smoke. And because of the way that Wog was leaning, he can't get a good angle onto that console doorway. Boot Camp looking a lot more comfortable on Consulate so far. But what this does, though, is it allows NIP to go back to Garage, which is exactly where they're going to go.
I just don't understand why you bring a Legion and then play him in the back of admin office.
Well, I mean, having a Legion play in Projector and inside of that staff area is not outside of the ordinary that much. You know, you can really stack up and waste a lot of time as long as you have faith in the rest of your players and the rest of your teammates to try and lock down console office and thereby Projector and that meeting hall that the second bomb site is in. But I think what they did was they tried to get Kamikaze to, or I believe it was PZD actually, who was playing the Legion. I think they tried to get him to push up to try and repel people playing on repel in admin, and he just got pinned down by way too much. You know, he had a Lion, he had flashbangs, he had a frag grenade go in, and then he had Paul on Windows. It was a death sentence.
Yeah, which is why you really don't want to leave your Legion cornered in there, because if possibly the Legion was still alive, the IQ either would have been downed, or you could have at least heard the rotation coming in from the back by using the goo mines. At some point they realized, okay, there's only one player alive. 2 at a certain point, we can just come in from the window and contest from there. But that's our previous round. Julio will set up here on the Maestro. This has been a spot that a lot of Maestro players have been using on Consulate, that is for sure. And as you mentioned, it's going to be on Garage. I want to see how the Maestro plays in this one, because we haven't really seen effective Maestro play on Garage and Latin America in general, but in this matchup specifically, there's no Mira. Some teams, oddly enough, have been, specifically I'll mention IDK, they've been bringing a Rook and then putting a camera with the Rook, because they were like, okay, we don't have a Mira, we're just going to use him to our advantage. And since a lot of teams are going to be running smokes with Dokkaebi, etc., we could just see through them, and we can have a pure line of sight on it. Consulate Garage definitely makes a lot of sense in that.
Yeah, so Julio's been the one player on NIP who's been running Maestro a couple times on an odd variety of maps. Not as much as we've seen certainly out of other teams. And NIP has been an interesting team in that they've kind of just thrown out the conventional meta. They typically play their comfort pick operators. You don't really see a lot of Vigil on that team. You don't really see, you don't always see a lot of Ying on that team in particular, though she's probably the most that we see get used from them. They'll run a Legion from time to time, but it's they've got a Vigil right now, but they've always kind of played a lot of the older operators, especially Sledge and Glaz, that have both been rolled out from that team when we haven't seen other teams use it as much. Same with Blitz. So I'm intrigued to see the way that they use the Maestro. They tried the Alibi experiment, didn't really work all that well. Oh, Kamikaze gets dispatched by M-King as Psycho manages to eliminate Dud. So 2 kills on opposite sides of the map. You've lost a Legion for a Hibana. I like that. I like that a lot. If that Hibana hasn't been able to get her X-Kairos down, you have just freed up your defense from a lot of that vertical pressure that can only really be applied now by the Buck.
Well, Palu just falling back into the hallway. M-King opening up a bit of an angle to use with a cheeky close angle here with his V308. And as you can tell, the phones have now been hacked in. Now, what a lot of Dokkaebi players have been trying to do nowadays is the instant they get that early kill and secure an area, they will actually go to hack the phones of the defenders, because they realize, okay, there's a Maestro. Well, hacking the Maestro cameras definitely gives us a huge boon, because usually they're set up in positions that only help the defenders. Well, in that case, they'll be pretty much a liability.
And I think the way we saw it from NIP, they set up one very far off site as M-King is able to take care of Julio. So those Evil Eyes will be stuck in their current position. It's just Psycho and Wog left. Make that just Wog as Lipe is in boot camp, has looked so fearsome. You're going to see a Smoko sailing by Wog. He's going to take 1 down, but we'll have to deal with 2 at separate angles. He'll get pinched, and Lipe will finish things off. Boot camp taking 4 of the 5 rounds on attack. That's where it needs to be, and I think this Mira Echo ban really, really hurt NIP. We'll see how well they're able to do on attack, especially given the fact that they really need to win them all, because Boot Camp only needs 2 of the next 5 to be able to put this one away. Now, interesting to note, there is, of course, overtime. Because it's not a best of 1, there is an overtime situation with 3 overtime rounds, so there's the possibility to go into extra innings, so to speak. It's not unlimited OT by any stretch of the imagination, but Boot Camp doesn't have too difficult a path to be able to equalize at 1 apiece.
Yep, and so far it definitely has been. I want to say the reverse of the previous matchup, but like Boot Camp have been so assertive in their 4-1 rounds, and even the 1 round that NIP has on the board was not one that they got easily. So, got to be very careful here because you mentioned that after NIP won the first map on Border, is that they'll try to go for that second map whenever possible because it'll give them a big morale advantage. Also, just keep that ball rolling. Make sure you have the momentum to keep going through it. But Palu on the alibi, so it seems like both teams have some idea of alibi plays. The Maestro will be brought up as well, so both of our Italian operators, both the GIS and the Carabinieri, will be brought in. We'll get to see how they play around with the Ela. So Ela alibi combo, a lot of roaming.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting setup for them, and how they're able to do this. You know, you've got potential for two playing deep on site. That's going to be your Echo and your my apologies, your Smoke and your Maestro. Got Echo on the brain now because he is of course banned, and then you're going to probably have your alibi and I would guess probably the Ela, not too far off site. That would be my guess. You know, just keeping your Legion around wherever need be. You can play, you know, you can play Legion on site. You can play Legion off site. It really depends. It really comes down to how you want to use his utility. I know that you were a little bit, you know, nonplussed by the way that they used their Legion previously.
Yeah.
So
it was a defense in the console chamber. I look at that and I say, you have a Legion, you can shut down half of the map just by one of the 3 stairs that are usable, and really one of the 2 stairs that are usable, because attackers won't really be going up spiral to push into the offices. Well, you can just shut it down by putting 3, 4 goo mines up there, and then you can start setting up your defense in a different way where you know that you're going to be pushed from admin, so you set up your first 2 goo mines by admin, and then the rest will be set up in other positions. You can be smart about it, and usually with a goo mine, it's you set it up as far away as possible first, and then the rest of it, you're going to be playing more in and around the site. And it's not really the same roamer mentality that you have as with an Ela or an Alibi.
And speaking of Ela, you can hear Scorpion going off in the background. You can also hear the SMG-11 getting a couple shots off. PZD is working his way towards yellow stairs. About half the round has been burned at the moment. But the one thing that NIP has done is they managed to take basically all the map control away from Boot Camp. You mentioned that Boot Camp was largely going to have a very roam-heavy strategy, but PZD was upstairs. He basically cleared it by himself. And now on the main floor, you've also got the Buck there. PZD's going to walk right down, and Intact just completely out to lunch, playing by the back of pipes. And Paula is also there, just staring at the dead body of the Smoke. At least PZD will drone 1, get a grenade primed and ready to possibly take out that Evil Eye, and they'll get it right there, easily enough. Actually, it looks like it might have missed.
How did that miss?
How did that miss?
Oh, it's still available. He shot right at PZD. Did he blow it up even afterwards?
I don't know if he got it. It's hard to tell from that angle, but that's a bit inexcusable that that grenade wasn't able to take care of it. Anywho, 30 seconds left. They've droned out the Alibi, knowing that she's still playing at that range. She's going to get frozen in place, and will have to head for the hills. I think that's a wise choice for the Alibi to get away, because that sledge would have been able to take care of her pretty easily. Dud's in a position waiting by the back of the staff area, but the diffuser goes down. And no knowledge whatsoever that Boot Camp could possibly have to rotate. So that Lion was essentially burned to try and take care of that. The MX-4 will, with low damage, but very little recoil, do some damage through the hatch above. But Julio manages to take out M-King, and this looks like it's just going to be simply an attacker-sided map. Kamikaze eliminating Duds, and now Psycho jumps in. It's all up to Life. Will push up onto yellow stairs. His life will be just a second later as PZD eliminates the final member of Boot Camp, and a really strong round from NIP to set the pace of them on attack.
Complete reversal of the attack that Boot Camp had when pushing in, at least the first round that they got on the board.
Right.
It was basically copy-paste exactly what happened. We have the Habana. We already opened up the garage wall. We'll just go in, we'll plant right in front of it, and since we already have control of yellow stairs, we can just look on down and get the kill. And that's why they dedicated so much utility to take down the Evil Eye there, because that was really the only thing that could have slowed them down. Because, well, you saw at a certain point, it's kind of like Boot Camp didn't even know that the diffuser was being set there at all.
Yeah.
And yeah, they kind of fell into the same trap that they had built up for their opponents not but 4 rounds ago.
So this could just end up being a very offensive-sided, I guess, slugfest between these teams. That was a lockout for NIP. They did so well, and they did everything they needed to do. They held, especially on Yellow Stairs, they held the angles really, really well. And PZD essentially forced them to not be able to rotate from that small office, from pipes, from hallway, and from the staff area downstairs. He essentially cut off all of it. And that's because Boot Camp didn't have any presence on that main lobby at all.
Yeah.
No presence off-site. They put all 5 of their defenders somewhere around the defensive setup they had in Garage. And I mean, that was such a waste.
You know, the odd thing is, though, Parker, they put the smoke.
Yes. On pipes and very vulnerable to Yellow Stairs.
And all that they needed was, oh, the smoke is there. We just saw him on the drone. Bam, go get the kill. Easy. I don't get how that happens. The smoke will more often than not be playing from behind the white van because, especially when there's only one small hole that can be used potentially by the Habana and her team, well, you can easily chuck a gas canister on it because not the entirety of the wall is open, so you have a bit more surface damage that you can do. Odd mistakes, odd decisions, but we digress. We head into round number 7 now as NIP, at least in the previous round, able to put that second one on the board. They still have 2 more to go to tie it, and then potentially 2 to win it, or that'll be a reverse sweep in that case, or to tie it to go into overtime. Because to remind you, there is overtime in this. This is a best of 5, and we'll have exactly the same setup that you see right now. Played at DreamHack Valencia, and also played at the Paris Major, mostly in best of 3s, unless you're mentioning a final with a best of 5.
It's very exciting, and I like this format a lot for best of 3s. The matches tend to go a little bit longer than the old setup, but I'm okay with that. You know, it's not too bad, and honestly it provides for really big excitement for the viewers at home. Psycho is spotting 1 right now on defense, and able to get I think a good mark from the drone, but wasn't able to actually get any damage off onto Boot Camp. 1 bit, you've got Julio on Rome right now playing an admin. Tough to see who exactly there is going to be able to pressure him. Lost his drone, and he's basically twisting in the wind at this moment. He knows that there's at least 1 inside of admin. He'll use one of the Lion charges. He'll get a kill on Nepala as Duds finishes off PZD. So the sledge will be removed, but so will the Jaeger. That is a lot of usage out of PZD. He had a great round before that. They'll also take his grenades away, as both frags are used from Julio. So you're pretty safe at this exact moment from any possible frag grenades. Duds inside of admin still is going to be under fire. He'll get droned out, and Psycho as well as Julio will establish a nice crossfire, and it's Psycho inside of admin who will get the kill.
Still looking down the admin hall, and the C4 will get thrown up by M King. Not sure where he was set up though. I believe yeah, it was right below. Playing in the servers, walked on up and was able to throw the C4 from the waiting room intact, shooting in and unable to get the kill, but he'll possibly get 2 out of this one. Swipes onto the second, and Wog will be taken out. Julio, last man alive in a very important round for Boot Camp, the one that'll put them just a bit closer to the edge. Have to run through the smoke as Julio walks on out. He'll get the spot, but M King is ready for him with the UMP. Boot Camp will nail the round here for number 7. Now put the 5th one for themselves on the board, which means, Parker, all they need is 1 more round, and they'll tie it up 1-1. That'll guarantee us a map 4.
Yeah, this is match point or punto decisivo. I don't know.
Decisive point.
Decisive point.
Decisivo.
That was, you know, a decisivo. Desposito?
Oh God, no.
Desposito 2?
Oh, actually, is that a song? Is that an actual song? Because I thought it was a meme.
I've never even heard the first Desposito, so.
Lies. It was everywhere.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that song. Okay. I have heard that song. All right, I was like, I don't know if I have, but it's like, yeah.
Now it's going to stick in my brain.
You go into any fast food place in North America at any point when it's like hot out, and Desposito seems to be the only song that they ever play.
Trust me, it was the same thing when I was in Lebanon during the summer.
Can't wait for the sequel.
You know, they always say that the sequel is worse than the first movie, and
tell that to Star Wars. Empire Strikes Back.
Yes, but I mean, let's mention the newest sequels. That's
We don't talk about
a
yourself.
bit of
Anyway.
a train wreck.
So that map in particular, what happened there? Well, number one, the way that smoke was playing was excellent. I can't believe Intact actually took that chance because that had an opportunity. If there was nobody watching Copier, that had an opportunity to go real south for Nip really quickly. And I mean, it did. You saw him. He was able to. We went for the pre-fire. He missed it, but then he pulled out the shotgun, and I think they understood it was a smoke, but they still pushed anyway, trying to establish maybe the double up on the doorway into Copier, thinking that, well, we might lose one, but at least we get the smoke. Still not really wise, because Bootcamp made a concerted effort to put all their resources into holding admin. I think once they got that first kill onto the sledge, and then they lost the Jaeger, their thought process was, this is going to be, this is going to be where we hold our ground.
Yep.
And it worked out. It worked out really well, and they really they didn't risk too much to do it. I think they were able to take out the Ella, if I recall correctly, from Bootcamp. And then the smoke only had 3 more to go, and like I said, if there was nobody watching that flank inside a Copier, it could have gone, that could have gotten really bad for Nip, a lot faster. Julio just really, you feel for him because that buck unable to, tear through 3. The C8 is great, but that first initial bobble on the shot can really be a pain in your rear, and I think that's what happened. In your behind, and that's what it looked like. Julio was able to get a lot of shots into the UMP, but I mean the UMP was just right there.
Intact early on was so much damage taken. They'll try to reset him here through the wall. There you go. Not sure where that came from. I think it was tagged by the... No, actually, no, because the glass is on the other side of the map. But regardless, a bit of an oddity. But Psycho is brought in, and he is a fairly proficient glass, to say the least. We've seen him in the past be very, very effective on the operator. Well, he is running the suppressor on it, which is an attachment I personally dislike using on the glass. Even seeing professional players, Necrox will be one that'll actually use that, but it reduces the damage, even the penetration damage, which is something you have to deal with. But NIP just flurry of kills here to leave it in a 4v2 duds, and M-King last 2 alive as Nip might be down. They are not out just yet. Prevent the C4 from taking out their teammates. PZD just running into the cubby. Gets the second kill with the SMG-11, and that is sweet round for NIP as they're getting closer. They need to tie this up here 5-5 because that is the only way for them to get a point off of this map, is going to overtime.
I hope you enjoyed that round because it was so quick. I didn't even get to say words. I didn't get to words that round. It's so fast. So fast, Gasson.
Effective.
Nip read that correctly. They saw that there was a very little, presence that was playing on yellow. They were able to take care of that. They got the wall open. And then they just asserted complete control. And Bootcamp just folded like a wet paper bag.
Yep. Violence, speed,
and I believe momentum.
Yes. And momentum is definitely in the hands of, Bootcamp. It
was all those things.
Yep.
So,
NIP somehow stealing it away.
Now because of the 3-site rotation, they can go back to lobby or they have to go down to garage. Now, last time that we saw Nip attack garage, it was swift and it was pretty painful for Bootcamp, but I'm sure they're going to probably invest more resources in controlling yellow. Yellow has been a major thorn in the side. Controlling those yellow stairs has been a pretty big problem for Bootcamp. And as long as you don't have to fight on yellow stairs, Bootcamp is actually doing quite well on defense because admin is a problem for Nip, as yellow stairs is a problem for Bootcamp. So the question here is going to be, can you make that change to strengthen your hold on yellow stairs? Because they're so close, they're tantalizingly close to taking this map away, sending us to Oregon all tied up. And yeah, you said you'd basically need almost a reverse sweep for Nip here. It's doable, but Bootcamp is so close.
Yeah, the thing that I like here change for Bootcamp is bringing the mute. They can, obviously, one of the strongest positions in the game, really, for a mute is to set up his disruptor right below the yellow stairs, which means that you won't have a repeat of that first round on the attack for NIP, where they just drone in, got the info, and came in for a quick snap on the smoke. Yes. with Julio on the sledge. So you got to keep that in mind. If you're not gonna you don't want to overcommit on the yellow stairs, so you're not going to bring both a Legion and the Mute at the same time. But I think committing to two roamers for boot camp might be their undoing if they can't rotate back onto the site, because a lot of players might be great roamers, but they don't know when to time their return on the site in case of an imminent attack. And that timing might be the thing that leaves them in a 2v5.
Duds gets the first kill on the Psycho, and that's the Zofia down, but PZD is there to take out Paula. It's another trade as Duds will get his second before Julio finishes him off, and Julio walks right in and will dispatch Lipe too, leaving just Intact and M-King, who are very conveniently both on yellow stairs, which has been the Achilles heel of this team. They're going to work their way up and completely abandon the site. There's nobody downstairs whatsoever. This could potentially be disastrous. They'll light up Julio a little bit. Intact has decided not to join his fellow SAS colleague, I suppose, and we'll head back down. So you've got the smoke on site, but once again, he will also head towards yellow stairs. M-King will now join him, and they'll work their way back down. So I think they were trying to go for a pick, and now they'll head back down to the safety of that site. And they didn't get anything out of it. I think they did a little bit of damage to Julio, but that's about it.
And they realized there's a lot of time to be played here for NIP. They have over a minute on the clock. Got a ton of time to set up, use the skeleton key to potentially get a pick or a bit of damage done to the bootcamp players, as they have to set themselves up in positions to contest the yellow stairs. And one of them is Van. Well, you know what you can do if... That was a fantastic reload. That was like a shotgun reload on Skyros.
She cocked the whole launcher. So just the whole thing, you know? But no, you're absolutely right. And you're in a position right now where boot camp, this is very winnable for boot camp, actually. As long as they can hold yellow stairs and make sure that nobody's coming from Visa stairs, this could possibly be a lockout for them. And your big focus is going to be Intact, who with 20 seconds left still has those smoke grenades doubling up, but no. Yikes, that was so winnable. But Nip just basically charges in two bodies as they will give their position away. You've seen teams actually do this a couple times. They will deliberately give their position away by shooting a Prisma to work as a bait. It was very similar to the old way Jackal's tracking ability worked, was that it took so long between pings that you could actually sit in the same spot and they'd think that you were long gone and push up and you'd know exactly where Jackal was coming from. So
that was a Jinkies. Whatchamacallit?
Yeah, that was a Jinkies Scoob, I believe they say from Scoob.
Ruh-roh.
Yeah, ruh-roh. So Nip is now in a position where they could throw this to overtime, and we could have essentially, you know, mirrored rounds. So the second round was won on defense for both of the defenders. Nip lost rounds 1, 3, 4, and 5, and on defense for BK or Bootcamp, they've lost rounds 1, 3, and 4. Will it be a fifth? This Capcan, I'm assuming, is probably going to be a bait. Now, mind you, it might not be, and the reason why I say that, it actually won't
it's Consulate Chamber. It makes Capcan is a good operator for Consulate Chamber. I would still personally prefer Legion, but that's because I'm kind of biased towards him. But I want to see how they play the Pulse, because that is a bit of the you know, the trump card that they can use in this one. They can either play it from below or play him if they completely reinforce the cubby by the hatch, then you can play him right behind there and at least be safe in knowing that the only way to really be contested is by somebody pushing into you, or potentially some lucky grenades that are thrown in from Skylight, but Paolo is bringing the Jaeger, so he kind of works with it.
The reason why we're seeing the Capcan over the Legion is because of all the rounds where Nip has been on attack, including the one they lost, they have been very fast rounds. Nip is basically just sprinting right in, taking control. The slowest round was the first round, if you recall. So why do you bring a Capcan over a potential Legion? Well, Legion is great if you have the opportunity to make it to the end of the round, which is far from certain, and in fact is probably unlikely given the way that Nip has been playing. Look at Nip's lineup. They don't have a Thatcher, they don't have a Twitch, they don't have an IQ, so unless they're just doing great drone work, communicating well, and shooting out the traps, there's a likelihood, however small it may be, that they could fall victim to a trap or two. Now, mind you, they do 50 damage-ish, depending on whether you're a 3 armor, depending on whether you're a 1 armor. It varies, but it's going to slow Nip down. And then I think that's the exact effect that they're going to need. They realize that losing the Legion early is a higher probability. And even if you lose the Capcan early, you've at least got those 5 traps down. He doesn't regenerate them or generate them, period, the way that Legion does.
Yeah, don't give anybody ideas.
I mean, Capkin was so bad for so long. He was he was in do not pick territory, and at least now he's got his uses. And I think the way that Bootcamp has been using him in pretty standard entry points, just a couple around the site, it's definitely gonna trip up Nip. And I wouldn't be too surprised to see 1 or 2 of the EDDs get hit.
Yeah, and you know, there are players that are famously known for some Capcom plays. I'll remind people of Iris that used to play on Millennium and Unnights, a lot of teams back in the day. He's a player that can definitely make the Capcom work, and we've seen in a few maps where he'll be able to get 2 of them because of how NIP have been drawing down the board on the time. It forces them into even more an aggressive play, and that's where the Capcan will shine.
And you're speaking of fast plays here. Everything that Nip has set up is designed to try and get into that console office. They'll start things off as quickly as they can. They've got smokes, they've got the disruption from the Dokkaebi calls. PZD is rewarded with 1 kill. He'll push up to yellow stairs, and then an EE1D will show the Jaeger exactly where he is. Now, he does have the comfort of that reinforced wall. PZD will take up his second as M-King dispatches Kamikaze. You've lost the smoke and the Ella on defense, but Diffuser goes down, and Nip right now in excellent position to throw us into overtime. PZD will pick up his 3rd kill. He's only got a pair more until he's got every single one. MK will run out just by the bench, but there's nobody outside for him to see. Light situated, will have to go for a retake. He's the only one up top. He's looking to see. Here's one on Repel by the balcony, but PZD will pick up 4. That's a 4K at minimum. Can he finish them all? It's Light right now who will push up from main desk. Will the ACOG of the Sledge be trained towards that long desk? Lipe will now look towards the Diffuser. He'll see the console off his windows. He'll get shot at, but Wag is there to get the final kill, and overtime is awaiting us as Nip answers back. So we have mirrored rounds. The defense will take the 2nd round on both Nip and Bootcamp's positioning, but we're going to OT. Bootcamp will defend twice.
And seeing as how they defended, I definitely think that they're in kind of a disadvantage in this one here, because it's just, it has to do with the way that you're, picking first of all, and the pick of the game, etc. NIP won't really be changing much, as they'll be going for more of the aggressive plays. Now, which site are they expecting? That'll really change things up. I think the Capital pick in the previous round was definitely warranted. They ended up using him perfectly to shut down anybody that's sitting in the connector room, and then just open fire through there. The second part that they needed was the yellow stairs, and at least if you have somebody in there, you can contest, you can deny, and then protect the player that's playing on the we're playing on the wall.
The Capcan pick for Bootcamp was good theory crafting, but didn't really work at all in practice. It was good in theory, didn't work in practice. Essentially, you wanted to try to slow them down because they thought they were going to try to enter from the main floor, either try to go through yellow or try to go through Visa and then work their way up. But as I've said many, many times, yellow stairs has been the Achilles heel. So what ends up happening here? Well, they decide to ignore it altogether. They line up on the windows. They take control of the window on yellow. They take control of the windows in front of the console office. They hit the Dokkaebi calls. They hit the Lion. They throw out the asphyxiating bolts to pin down the 2 defenders that were playing in and around that connector and into B site. And then they manage to smoke off and get a plant off, while PZD just literally kills everybody that decides to try and push up. So overall, a really excellent job from Nip there, and they just completely evaded what the Capcan was designed to do.
One thing I want to ask you, for an alibi for a Maestro, would you prefer using the Bailiff or the Keratos? Because most players that we've been seeing are going for the Bailiff. I wonder what's the point of view behind the Keratos.
So the Keratos is a really strong weapon. It's got one of the highest single shot damage. It's decently accurate. It's probably one of the best sidearms that doesn't happen to be an automatic weapon. You take it if you've got the ability to create destruction from either a mirror or a smoke, or even a possible supernova for Echo. And the mirror ban has reverberations down to the way that you build a site.
Yep.
You have a smoke shotgun, that's a given, but usually you want you want somebody who has the ability to possibly help shape the site as a secondary. Mirror shotgun usually does it in a pinch, but without a mirror, we're seeing a lot of Maestros take the Bailiff because it can shoot through the beams. Caliber-based destruction is great, but there are those studs in the wall that you can't shoot through unless you have a shotgun, an explosive, be it an impact grenade, a frag grenade, or a C4. Of course, frag grenades are not available on defense, so you're limited to the other 2. The Bailiff shoots through the studs, which is what's so important, because you can shoot through the wall, but you can also rotate if the studs are gone. So I said it really depends. I will typically take the Bailiff because, hey, it's better to have that site destruction available. First kill, by the way, is going to go to Psycho. He's going to punish the Jaeger, and you've lost a roamer, but that's really it. You've still got utility available for you on defense. You're going to rest a lot on M-King as your Vigil to possibly go for a deep roam and you know, frustrate the attackers. But yeah, so you bring the Keratos if you don't need that destruction. But as Maestro, I'm going to usually bring the Bailiff because you've got an LMG. It's got 80 it's got 80.
If you're not going to kill someone with
really
the LMG with 80 rounds, at that point, just
run the AA-12 at that point.
Yeah,
you know? So there's the one good thing that the two Italian operators have is because they have access to the Bailiff as well as that AA-12, they can blow sites open quite easily. You know, and then of course don't forget that Lipe is going to have impact grenades as well, and he's going to position himself so he can possibly get a repel in. And it's likely going to come now as the EU1D is going to be used, and there will be the warning bells for the defenders.
Right, Intact takes quite a bit of damage there on the smoke, but the aggressiveness of Tuts will win it out here against Wog in the yellow stairs. You know, I was talking about the technical positioning of the T5 SMG that's being played, just in case with the Legion. But if you can play the firepower, it definitely will work out in a very similar way. But look at that, 13 seconds left on the clock. Gotta make this one work here, NIP. M-King is ready to slow them down though, as they have not been able to get the plant down just yet. We'll try to go for the plant as Psycho's already on that job. Kamikaze trying to spray in here just to make sure that they get the diffuser down. Now they got it in. They still have some lifelines to play with. Have to deal with Kamikaze on the outside of the Lion. Kamikaze with 2 is Leipzig. Last man alive. Unfortunately for him, he'll have to run through the barbed wire here, and the shakiness will bite the defenders in their behinds. He'll have to move through it. He reveals his position. Moves away back into the main hall. There's nobody for him to find just yet, as the rest of the players are set in the site projector room. Lion has already gotten the spot, and Kamikaze will nail the last 3 players to get the first round on the board. NIP, though, will play the defense this time.
So what essentially happened here, we've been very critical of Boot Camp, and we've been focusing a lot on the fact that Boot Camp really hasn't been investing too much in their off-site play. They've been keeping people either on-site or playing very aggressively close to site as support players. They haven't really invested too much in full-blown roam games. And what happens there? They get a good roam game, and they're off-site way too far. You can't be railing in or reeling in your roamers with 15-10 seconds left. You can't, because you lose complete site control. And
mentioned the rotations before.
This needs to really fall on whoever was calling on Boot Camp, either their IGL or whoever's doing the shot calling at that point. Your site gets hammered and you lose 2 of your site members. You've already lost a roamer in the Jaeger. You have 2 roamers. Duds playing on yellow. He's not necessarily a roamer. At that point, you're playing aggressively close to site, but the Vigil was downstairs, was a full-blown roamer. He gets rewarded by taking care of the buck, but at the time, that doesn't really help the overall score of the round because you've got 2 members of NIP sitting in sight, literally feasting on the fact that you've left it all behind. And you've got site control, and you basically find a scenario where it's flipped, and NIP is essentially defending the site and defending the diffuser, and Boot Camp can't reliably get back to site without losing bodies. And Kamikaze single-handedly wins the final, what could have been essentially a 1v3 with Kamikaze versus 3. He's still got 2 more from his team there. So for NIP, they're going to go back down to the garage. They won once here before. They lost it as well.
They'll play the Capkin this time.
And they're going to bring the Capkin and the Alibi, which is going to be very interesting. And the way that Boot Camp has things set up, for Boot Camp, it looks like they're going to try to do the same thing they did before, which, if you recall, they planted very deep. They planted deep on next to the White Fan, and they ran a very similar lineup. And a lot of that revolved around them trying to keep control of Piano. If Boot Camp cannot establish and maintain control of Piano, their real only other opportunity that they have available to them is just simply fragging out. That's it, because they don't have a lot of utility on this lineup. They've got an Ashe who, fragging potential, great. You've got a Dokkaebi whose phone calls will be largely a nuisance, but with the smoke will likely try and enable a pre-plant. You're not going to have Dokkaebi really unless you save 1 call for a post-plant scenario. Same with Lion. So you've got the opportunity to cover a pre-plant and a post-plant, but then the Hibana is largely going to be fragging potential once she gets those hatches open. You're going to be relying very heavily on either the Ashe or the Buck playing in piano, and if you lose one of them, and you can't establish piano control, all Nip needs to do is really worry about possibly garage and possibly yellow stairs, because that's the way I think that Boot Camp is going to try to make this work.
Oh, there we go. We were mentioning the Capcan traps, and Paulo even going into the goo mine. So now he takes even more damage. That's the 60 plus the 5, 65 in total. And you see him.
Actually lost more than that.
That's
He's got
even
23
more.
health right now. He's lost about 70 some odd health at this point.
Even got a tick in from the goo mine then. Alrighty. Well, Life Sword will still get a kill on Psycho. So regardless of that, and here we go, Psycho.
Paulo, come on.
I know you're an Ash and all you know to do is the shift W, but come on. He'll get taken down. You were mentioning the Capcan, you know, you can lose him. Sure, you lose a potential C4 and a pretty cool to use SMG, but still, all your traps are up. And
this is a bad spot for PZD, by the way. He's getting pressured. You saw the buck cartridge fly out. He's going to get worn down eventually, as there's a number of guns that are going to be coming his way. However, he's buying time for the sight play to really get their forces and consolidate. Similar to the Spartans with their shields, you know? Get that phalanx nice and ready for when the push happens.
oh, now they're going to add shields for defense. Thank you very much.
We don't
Shield
we don't need Spartans on defense. No. You know, we can't. They have Leonidas as the next downloadable content ready. You know.
At least they'll have. At least now people won't just be making like a Blackbeard chiseled abs pictures. At least they'll be drawing one.
What is
now.
going
PZD runs into 2, and he'll get the kill and does. And Life Sword intact is the last man alive. And NIP just need that one kill. Is anything open? No, it's not. The Habana's already dead.
This game is over. So you're gonna see Nip be able to steal this one away. 30 seconds, and you know if Nip is smart, they'll just play really aggressively. Intact trying to shoot out. That was an admirable effort from him. But this is what your Bucks should have been doing a minute and a half ago. They were very worried about losing the Buck, which is very important. As I said, that is going to be your focal point.
Lost the Habana in the meantime.
But you had your entire team trying to roam clear. Intact will soldier on, but that is just a formality as WOG manages to clean up kill that will send his team to, I suppose, qualifier point, as they are now up 2 maps. This was looking so good for Boot Camp. Boot Camp had 3 rounds to lock this out and be able to push onward to Oregon, tied up, but Nip with incredible staying power. And I mean, maybe that alibi ban wasn't so bad after all, as PZD was able to frag across the board. Keep in mind, he got a 4K on the sledge, so that's where some of them came from. He was doing very good work on attack. On defense, I'm amazed. There wasn't even any trickery. They just pushed at separate times, and PZD with great reflexes and the steadiness of the SMG on alibi, he did a really good job just being able to stave off defeat, when really, the buck from above, you had 2 bodies inside of the projector room trying to take him out. There's no way in any universe that alibi should have been able to stay alive that long while also wearing them down and getting 2 really big kills to leave the buck last alive.
Yeah, it definitely is a mistake, a tactical mistake. Call it whatever you want. It was a blunder, and that cost them the whole. It cost them the whole round. It cost them pretty much that whole map, just because, as you mentioned, Boot Camp had the advantage coming into it. And unfortunately, they kind of squander it, and it's...
And Paulo running into 2 Capcan traps, not even bothering to look. Yeah. You hit 1 Capcan trap.
Like, oh, okay,
the next thing that happens, not just for that round, but maybe the next 2 or 3 rounds after you hit a Capcan trap is, oh, we should possibly check for, you know, maybe some EDDs. But no.
It's free damage.
And it basically was. The Ash just got dispatched, and Oregon, which is typically one of Nip's best maps, is going to be our 3rd. But before we get there, Gasson, we have a break for you. So because it's a best of 5 between every 2 maps, if we need 2 more after this, which would be Boot Camp coming alive.
Yes.
We might need another break, but for the time being, we have a 10-minute break lined up for you. Stretch your legs, go get some popcorn, etc. Enjoy
Scooby snacks.
Scooby snacks if you need to. We'll be back in 10 minutes.
Stylish on the outside. Savage on the inside. Legion by Lenovo.
Welcome back, everybody, to what is going to be our third map of the Latin America Paris Major Qualifiers. And we're in the lower bracket. It's Ninjas in Pajamas, who are over here. And then we have
Sverige represent.
a Boot Camp Gaming. And so far, Boot Camp had an excellent opportunity to close that map out. Couldn't do it. Nip is up 2-0.
Yeah. I mean, for people that didn't watch today, we saw Sweden going down in the World Cup. But at least that's the real pride that they're looking for, is NIP qualifying
It's coming
for the
home.
Paris Major. Yeah, IDK, maybe.
It's coming home.
We all know that Belgium's going to win anyways.
No.
Yes.
No universe.
I actually ordered a flag, so I'm going to wear it. Because my flag, I left it at home. So
That's
my
weird.
mom...
I've never seen you wear flags anywhere, ever.
Yeah, right. I have a Canadian flag at home. I have a Brazilian flag, a Lebanese flag. But I left my Belgian flag at home because I lived in Belgium for 6 years. It's my home away from home.
And you should buy an English flag to celebrate the fact that England's going to win the World Cup.
No. You're half Scottish. No, you're
I'm not half Scottish. I'm full
You're
Scottish.
full Scottish, basically. Scottish
I
Canadian.
have more family in Scotland than I have family in Canada.
There you go. How are you supporting the English?
It's coming home. Who else am I going to support? I understand.
The Belgian,
I
the
understand,
French,
I
historically
understand
speaking.
that Scottish folks don't always get along with English folks, but I'm willing to throw that aside to celebrate the fact that it's coming home.
You know what? One day I want to see you in a kilt.
My grandfather has one. I might get one. I don't know. Anyway, we're in the third matchup. It's Oregon, and first ban is going to be Boot Camp. They're going to be starting on defense. They're going to take Hibana out, and we know how detrimental Hibana bans can be on Oregon. That completely changes the way that this map is played.
Yeah, and Thatcher, we'll see either Hibana banned or Thatcher being banned. So those are two operators that really facilitate things for the defense. A lot of people have been complaining. You know, Laundry, not that easy to hold anymore against the attackers. So we'll get to see it. Blitz. All right. Well, it kind of makes sense when you're playing, but that's NIP that banned it.
I think so over the last little while that we've been seeing NIP and we've been seeing Julio on Blitz, I just don't think they've had the same success they've had in the past. It makes sense for them to take it out of the fight because Boot Camp likely running a shield here. Without Hibana, let's go back to last Latin America. All right, let's go back to the phase. I believe it was phase versus Boot Camp. Yeah, it was. And how did Boot Camp win an assortment of rounds on attack? Well, they ran a blitz, they ran a finka, they ran really zany, strange rush strats. And I think that we're expecting the same thing. And incidentally, it was also on Oregon. Boot Camp actually banned blitz themselves against phase to take care of Mav, and now blitz being banned. So you can see that being taken away. We're likely going to see a Finka rush or two from Boot Camp because of how successful it was against phase. So yeah, not too much of a surprise.
All right. Well, the Vigil will be the last one to get banned in this setup here from the defenders. Boot Camp, of course, starting off on the defense. We'll bring in the smoke. The Mira, of course, not being banned. So we'll get to see actual Mira plays as we play in Laundry. Oh,
rejoice!
Finally, you know, my favorite Spanish operator. I finally get to talk about Mira.
How much can I pay you to never talk about how much you love Mira again?
How much do you have in your bank account, Parker?
We'll talk about this later.
All right, thank you very much.
For what it's worth, actually, let's take a note. There has been a change right now. Seiya coming in onto the team. So he will...
Alrighty.
All right, so there you go. You know, interestingly enough, Paula Duds, M King, Seiya, and Lipe. So they have actually had a roster change. Yeah, a substitution in between the match. Intriguing.
That's something we haven't seen since the Penta days when they still had Falco on the team. And they would exchange him for, you know, another player basically to keep in back when KS still played on the squad. So, you know, I can see it. I dig it. We'll see. We'll see how they can actually play this one out. So, Duds going up in the tower, meeting hall reinforcement. Nothing really out of the ordinary for the defense of Boot Camp. We'll see how they set up Seiya, because Latin America has been they've been this region that really like to play heavy on the defense on the top stairs, which is something I expect Nip to do, especially when having Wog and his smoke plays available. But it'll be interesting to see how Bootcamp actually play this one around, as maybe the Armory will be part of this defense.
Intact has not been having a bad game, so I'm surprised that they would sub him out for Seiya. And I mean, Seiya's not a bad player, don't get me wrong. We've seen him played many, many times, or we've seen
He's got great hair as well.
He has some luscious locks on him. He's got very nice, long, like black, like death metal-esque hair, like you'd see like a kind of death metal rocker, like. But I'm curious as to why the substitution is happening for Intact. Could it just be like scheduling? Could he have something going on possibly in his life? Could it be internet, PC issues, etc.? Could just Seiya be? I honestly don't know, because Seiya used to be on the starting roster. They moved him off, if I recall. Seiya. I think Seiya was replaced by Paula, and he's their sub, if I recall correctly. Maybe doing some coaching, I'm not entirely certain. But I mean, he makes his presence known. He gets the first kill on a Julio. The Buck is down, and that's an Armory right now, where it looks like he probably took care of the Buck inside a garage. Yeah, but Psycho's there to have his teammates back, and Julio, goodbye, but Psycho gets the refrag. Obviously,
the Buck pick is pretty huge, but so is the Legion pick for the attackers here. So because that elimination happened around the minute 55 mark, there was only 3, maximum 4 goo mines that have been deployed by that point.
Right.
And that's not a lot, especially since he was setting up mostly around defending the hallway, defending the armory itself. He has not had enough time to set up. Psycho, though, taking a bit of damage in the engagement. He will be reset now on a 50% health.
You got lots of time. That's pretty smart for them to do that. You can still see a roam clear here from Kamikaze, thinking that there might be somebody down in the pantry. Also has the opportunity to possibly hack their intel. As you can see, the phone's still upstairs. PZD will dispatch Paula, and that is the Jaeger out of action, and they will bring a Ying here. So Nip, if they can get that front drop hatch open, you get the drop so that you can drop through it, as Young so brilliantly said in our broadcast. You drop the hatch, you get the drop so you
Young
can
on a
drop through
desk.
the hatch. Yeah, well, let's get Young on a desk. Let's do that. So if Evil Geniuses, Evil Geniuses are great at not making it to the finals or winning the finals, but let's see how great they can be at not making it to LAN and get Young on a desk. But anywho, the Mira has fallen off, and you can see the Thermite able to use his exothermic charge to open things up. You can start to put that pressure on the main lobby. The first smoke is going to go out from Lipe. It's the bottom of the stairs, typical place for that smoke to be. We'll have to precipitate, or have to force a drop, which is where I'm assuming Bootcamp is going to predict it's coming from. Another smoke grenade is going to go down. These are chained very effectively. Phone calls will go down, and the Candelas as well, and Lipe will use his last Toxic Babe as the drop happens. Dud's in good position to possibly try and greet them. M-King will dispatch PZD, but Kamikaze is there to trade him off. So, Nip in good position. There'll be another for Kamikaze. Last one left is Lipe. He's got his shotgun out, but we'll need to stop them. What a shot on the Psycho. Oh my, he'll see one, a double from Lipe. He's got one left. Kamikaze Lipe with a big clutch blast through the chest. Game over. A huge clutch from Lipe. And he'll get the defuse. Give Bootcamp a round that they had no business winning, but they win it anyway.
That was an Alaska level anchorage play there. to quote, because by all means, that should not have worked. And then squeeze the range out of the shotgun. Got a tighter, pellet dispersion once you ADS, and on point with every single shot, dispatching the attackers that were pretty much clueless at some point as to the whereabouts of the smoke that was just jumping around and playing around them. And Bootcamp will get the first round in spectacular fashion. Speaking of spectacular, Maestro's in.
You kind of look like him.
Actually, I haven't bought the new beret, so
it's weird. Have you considered cosplaying as him? Maybe during the the finals of an event. Maybe that event can be somewhere on the east coast of America.
Do we have another one?
Well, I don't know.
but it kind of doesn't make any sense now that they actually showed him.
I think you'd do great as Maestro. Something for you to look into. Maybe at Paris Major you could surprise everybody and show up as Maestro. I don't know.
Maybe I could show up as Dokkaebi.
I do not want to see you in a pair of tight leather pants.
Or do you? No, you don't.
No,
you really don't.
You know, on my list of things that Intero wants, somewhere down, you know, in the thousands is Milos in leather pants.
I really don't want to be that dad, you know, that dad, like, hitting his midlife crisis at age 48.
I'm going to buy a Corvette and a pair of leather pants. Grow my hair out real long. I'm a rock star.
Oh,
is that Chad? Is that the future of Milos? Anywho,
oh boy.
Boot Camp stealing round number 1. They're going to go on to round number 2. They've locked the basement, so they're going to have to go somewhere else. Oregon has a 1A, 1B type of deal upstairs in dorms, so I would be astonished if we happen to see maybe them go for a tower or even a potential kitchen right off the hop. So no, they'll instead go up to kids' dorms upstairs, which is very sensible.
I really want to see how both of these teams will play on tower, because a lot of tower defenses have been hit and miss, even with the current meta that forces you to play onto either that or the kitchen, and they haven't really been able to figure out a successful hold on the tower, because a lot of teams have been putting too much effort on holding the tower itself and not the rooms around it, which, in my opinion, is the way that you defend it. You'll leave one player upstairs, you'll leave one player below, but that aside, we're theory craft for a site that we might even you know, not.
We might even we might not even see it, because if you recall, the previous times that we've seen Oregon, Orglis versus IDK. Last time we saw Oregon in Pro League, it was a laundry and dorm struggle all the way down. Vitality versus Supremacy, we saw one kitchen and everything else was laundry dorms too. So I mean, if a team is successful on one of these two sites, you have one more crack at it, and that's it. You don't need that full rotation, right? So WOG is waiting for his team very patiently to take care of the bandit charges, and they will, but it looks like there might be some active bandit. It really depends. Yes, it will, and there should be the exothermic charge on. Excellent job from the bandit, but Paula will be rewarded for his excellent bandit tricking by a shot to the head, and Paula will put him down.
Cease your trickery.
Yeah, no more bandit juggling, no more bandit tricking. So one exothermic charge potentially left from WOG, unless he's already used it. I didn't actually see how many he had left, but that could possibly be closet safe. But no, there you go, it'll blow. So the last exothermic charge will be used. You don't really need a second one here, so that's kind of okay for them to just use it once. But now you've got control of that generator room as well. And a C4 and smoke are really going to be the only things that are going to be aiding you in stopping a push through generator.
Well, Leipzord sitting in the back of the kid's bedroom. Now, crossfire from the white stairs and from that kid's bedroom is extremely important to hold the defense.
Yes.
Because more often than not, you'll be able to peek into the hallway, peek into the bedroom next to it, and then have an angle directly on the attackers that are moving in. Obviously, the mirror window gives you a bit of extra information on any potential pushes from that closet as well, which is the linchpin of the attack here for NIP, as Psycho has maneuvered his way into the small tower, get out of that, and set himself along the outside here to potentially push into the side. I wonder if NIP will completely change their ways of play or just have multiple angles to play with as we hit the 20-second mark on the board. MK playing in the L hallway.
Very little time here available for them.
Duds comes on in with the Jaeger. Has not been able to spot anybody yet. As you already hear the Candela's thrown in, and the T95 will spark things up. 2 kills for PZD. Now there's only 2 alive. The C4 will miss, and Kamikaze will land 1. Last alive is the Mirov and King. Unfortunately, we'll be able to deny the plan as it goes down, and the Buck finds the head of M King to take him down and dethrone him in the round. Crown King and Queen. There we go.
The king without his crown, would you say? No miracle that's going to happen there in the final seconds. You know, provided by a pump shotgun available for BK. Boot Camp in a... This really could be NIP up 2-0 right now if it wasn't for one player on Boot Camp being able to wrestle down 3 of them. That obviously falls on the shoulders of Lipe and how well he did. By NIP winning this, though, we're going to probably see another dorms, and that's exactly where they're going to go because... I mean, there's theories that teams have about whether they're supposed to go to different sites or whether they're going to stay and go on the same site. You know, Pain Gaming... infamously decided to defend CCTV or downstairs, actually, rather, so like monitors or whatever you want to call it on bank, armory lockers or the lockers area downstairs, all the different callouts for it. They defended it 4 times. And by defending it 4 times, they lost it 3. They won it once, and the only reason why they won it that one time, I think if people recall, was because of an incredible 1v3 clutch, in which they probably actually should have lost it 4 times in a row. So, I mean, maybe try to go to another site this time around. But with Oregon, it doesn't really make any sense for you to gamble on 2 inferior sites to Dorms, and I think that objectively you can say that Dorms is a much easier fit for most defenders. Now, what went wrong with Boot Camp there was just simply not expecting the push the way it happened. I don't know what was going on with their ADS if they've been burned early on, but PZD was basically able to repel into Kid Storms and get 2 kills immediately with those Candelas doing a lot of work. Nobody from Boot Camp had coverage to be able to try and stop the Ying.
From what I saw, the Zofia at the end had only 1 lifeline left, so it's quite possible that the lifelines were just thrown in to burn the ADSs. And, you know, even if they don't, well, they end up flashing and stunning somebody that's in the back of that Kid Storm, because as we mentioned, it is a big part of the defense. It gives you a huge line of sight into people that are coming in through the closet.
So here you go. The ADSs are being set up over on Armory quite heavily, actually, so that they can try and hold off on a push from that side of the building, which means that they're going to be a little bit thin on a push inside of Kids' dorms, as well as a push through the big window. That's problematic, and that's exactly where Nip's push came from. So I'm a little amazed that Boot Camp isn't going to try and maybe spread themselves out a bit more, because you find yourself lacking the utility by big dorms. Now, by that big dorms window. I mean, you have a Valkyrie and you have a Mira who are played there, so you've still got 2 C4s if there is a push through that window. But yeah, it's very intriguing to not see them decide to put more of an investment there, especially since that's where the push came from. Like I said, it's very similar to how Boot Camp kept ignoring the push on Yellow Stairs on console on map number 2. They just weren't able to really get anything. But Paula on the run will eliminate PZD, and that's the Ying down. So, I mean, hey, I guess you don't need the utility there if you're just going to frag out of your mind, and Paula will manage to take a lot of pressure off of his team in the first minute.
That is a huge kill to eliminate the Candelas from the Ying, and this will make the Armory a bit more difficult to deal with, Parker, because you can't really chuck any effective flashes in the back. The Jaeger there. Now, what Julio's going to rely on here is just information being fed from the drone, and there you go. The finisher will go in on one, but the peak, no, Duns is still alive. It'll get 1 kill. Sprays in for the second through the garage and cannot connect on the buck, but Julio is taking a lot of damage. And will the ADS help? There you go. Why are you throwing a grenade in there? Kind of lose things out here. Finally, they're able to use some concussive grenades from Psycho, but they lose 1 M67 in the meantime.
And this Carbine's going to win this fight at this short of a range. There's no way that the Carbine is going to lose this unless something seriously goes wrong. They're going to put an investment into trying to take care of him. Psycho rushes up, and yeah, there we go. Duds will lose it. And Wog manages to get the kill, but downed on the stairs. Not finished off, but a C4 is ready. Could possibly get 2. Oh! There you go, M King. That's a big boom, and it's Julio last alive trying to find the Mira. He is just a tiny bit of health as he had sustained some significant wounds from the Jaeger earlier on. Julio will rush right in, but M King, who had rotated all the way from garage to White Stairs, able to swiftly punish Julio as he's barely able to get in through the window. Great round for Boot Camp.
Oh, I have to say, M King, definitely the MVP of that round, realizing that, okay, I'm still playing downstairs. Nobody has pushed me for some reason because they're all contesting the Armory with the Jaeger still in there. The Bandits already gotten 1 kill early on, which means, well, NIP are 1 man down, so they all have to push into the Armory. They're so tunnel visioned on the Jaeger that by the time the Mira has realized what's going on and rotated through the main stairs, if she doesn't get the kill, she at least gets the damage done. And once those attackers kind of got their way in to revive their fallen Thermite, well, you know what? C4 was knocking at their door and just greeted them with a big kaboom. Last man alive was the Buck, and at that point, with little health remaining, there's not really much that you can expect, even in a 2 versus 1. But there we go. We'll head into round number 4. Zofia will get played yet again. It seems like overall, NIP are sticking to the same lineup, and it's very similar to what we saw in the first 2 maps as well. So We'll see the Lion, we'll see the Zofia, the Ying, the Buck, and the Thermite. Nothing out of the ordinary. And Boot Camp bringing the Smoke, the Valkyrie, the Mira, the Ella, and the Jaeger. I don't know about you, Parker, but it seems like Jaeger is known for being extremely important for defense in the laundry room.
Did you say Jaeger?
Yes.
Jaeger is very important for a number of reasons. Jaeger sees some usage on a lot of maps. I mean, he is. I know that seems. I know this seems kind of silly just to say that. Obviously, Jaeger's important. You know, he's a pretty good operator. He's got an excellent carbine that does tons of damage. Yeah. You know, but the only big issue that you can find with a Jaeger, depending on where you put them, is that most of the position that you can put an ADS down to try to stop any possible projectiles from the bottom of the stairs, that ADS will be visible from the hatch. So depending on where you're going to be covering from the hatch above, you're going to likely be able to take care of the ADS, which can be a major nuisance for you, but it gets countered. So a lot of times you'll have to try and keep the ADS maybe back towards the supply side, maybe even in the closet, maybe even in the laundry area, but then a lot of teams just run a Capitao. And as you know, ADSs don't stop those arrows. So you can throw an asphyxiating bolt in, or you can shoot in possibly one of the smoke bolts and not have to worry about it. Or, I mean, Zofia right now is the scourge of ADSs, you know, worldwide. She just has so much to wear them down that they're really, it puts Jaeger at a huge disadvantage. Yeah. And honestly, like, I think there's a pretty credible argument that there's been a bit too much expendables, be they, you know, every attacker having 3 flashbangs, maybe give them 2. You know, maybe buff Jaeger that way rather than just say, you know, oh, even give his ADS 3 charges. Maybe just make it so that there's not so much that you can throw at the defender.
And honestly, the more attackers that are given these projectiles, so with every season we'll have new ones, and at some point we might have something that's similar to a Zofia as well. Well, that makes it a lot more complicated. And maybe then we'll have the chance to say, you know what, maybe an extra 4th ADS would make sense, or increase it to 3 that can be burned. It's kind of up in the air. Personally, I think Zofia is extremely strong.
Yes, at the moment. Maybe a bit too much utility, and that's part of why we've seen certain operators get pushed out.
6 lifelines in total, 4 of them being concussive, might be a bit too much.
Yeah, maybe just a bit too much. A bit too much. But anywho, a bit of technical difficulties at the moment have pushed us to looking at our beautiful faces. Our humble, beautiful faces, let's be honest, but they've all been resolved. So we'll go back in, and as you can see, an advantage for Nip will give you, will present itself to you right away.
Yeah, thankfully, you don't see our faces anymore. As
No, God, they're awful.
That's very true.
We're grotesque.
Ugh. But Seiya will set up here for his C4 throw as he rips it out. Not just yet. MK playing in the back. He does not have an extra C4 to play with. There we go. Seiya finally will throw it in. And the second C4 will get thrown out. Not too sure why they will chain 2 in a row. And that is the smoke being thrown in the back. They'll go a 1. Seiya will have to deal with them, but Julio is the one to kill for the kills. 2v1. M-King is the last man alive. As he goes on in, cannot find the angle, but he will on one. He'll down the buck, goes in for the shotgun, and Wog is ready with a thermite. Get the final kill with M-King.
A big clutch, and that, you know, I was getting flashbacks to Nip being in the same position.
Yeah.
Where in the same position
Shotgun
where
again.
This should have been an easy victory for Nip, but they choke so hard in the home stretch, and Boot Camp, you know, eats them alive. But anywho, I'm very interested to know right now, no Hibana and no Blitz. This should be really helping the defense. You know, Echo and Vigil, okay. Let's break down these operator bans for just a second here. There's no Hibana and no Blitz. Blitz is a little inconsequential, I suppose, but Hibana is obviously the big difference maker here. On defense, no Echo and no Vigil. I wouldn't really say that either of them are particularly required. Vigil is great for being able to throw deep off-site and spend, you know, a huge amount of time and resources of the attackers to try and figure out where he's defending, especially in rear tower. If he's in that rear stage back tower area, that's an absolute nightmare because you have no clue where he is because of the range of his device. It's not just horizontal, it's also vertical. He can be up top, he can be on the main floor, he can be in the basement, you have no clue. And then you have to actually invest that time to manually go look because your drone can't determine where he is. The fact that Nip is able to keep this as close as it is with them on attack, I think spells trouble for Boot Camp. Now, keep in mind that Boot Camp has thrived on attack without Hibana and Blitz previously. They were able to clobber FaZe because of, you know, goofy strats that they ran, pushing through construction a number of times. They did 3 construction rushes, and FaZe was only able to shut it down once. If they're able to get 2 rounds off of that against Nip, that'll be a huge victory for them.
That's for sure. But, well, Mira will set up her Mira window as well to play from the meeting hall, as this is one of your standard Mira setups. Ramble on about her, that's for sure. Still waiting for that bank account check, by the way, Parker. But the ITA will get used to open up the hatches for potential rotation. So you see the Mira dropping down, and we'll have a construction rush for ourselves. Everybody gets a rush, and PZD comes in for 2 kills, but Palu ready to clean him up. Kamikaze with 1 more, though. Turn it into a 4 versus 1. Well, you know what? 3v1 now is Duds spraying in with the Ella. Of course, has a ton of damage dish out up close as he pulls up the RG-15, and Psycho takes him out. Lightning fast round. Very much a blitz without a blitz.
It's the that was the Infinity Gauntlet finger snap right there, you know?
And half the team dies.
That's
that was
it.
pretty much it.
Yeah, and half the team was dead. You
By the way,
your fingers and 50% of the
if people say that these were spoilers, please. It's been, what, 2 months now? Go watch it.
If people are saying that we just spoiled a movie that's months old, I don't even know, man. It would be different if it came out last night, but like, come on.
When we went and watched it, it was pretty fun, actually.
It was a good movie.
We actually had to stay at the movie theater for like an extra half hour because we were so stunned at the end of the movie.
We also wanted to see what happened. There was an end credit scene. People were saying, "Oh, it's not worth it." It really wasn't worth it. But I mean, at the same time, still great movie. Implications of that round. So we just saw Boot Camp taking a taste of their own medicine. That was the Boot Camp special against FaZe, and look at Nip. They're lining up trap, slow everybody down. They're going to be running the Alibi Capkin, likely expecting a push, but a Thermite will be in position here. The Thatcher will be the 6 pick with a Lion. So, I mean, you don't really have the makings of a construction rush for the time being. You don't really have the makings of a rush. I mean, if I'm Boot Camp, I'm not bringing it out right away. I'm not.
No,
I'm waiting. We're going to see. I would see as if Boot Camp. You know, how does the next round go? If you lose to Nip, maybe bring it out at that point as an act of desperation because you're going to be, staring down the barrel of possibly match point. But if you're able to win this round, then, you know that your standard, typical defense is working.
Yeah, and I guess NIP...
Or not defense, attack, my apologies.
I understand what NIP are doing here. This whole thing is all about, let's bring the Capcan just in case. That'll either make it, that'll either slow the attack down, or in the case that they want to get very aggressive, then they will take quite a bit of damage, potentially lose manpower before they get onto the site, which will equalize the amount of units, if you will, that each one of the teams here can bring for the final rush. But see how the Alibi is played as well, and we're going to set her up in the meeting hall. And as you mentioned, this doesn't really announce a construction rush. So for now, the Capcan won't be as effective. And
they're in small tower. It really depends on where all those EDDs went down. The entry denial devices. That's what EDD stands for. If anybody's curious, sometimes we tend to go by shorthand.
Yeah.
They're kind of actually spread out. It looks like they're going to try to take garage, try to take meeting. This is going to be pretty basic. This is going to be your bread and butter of an attack. They're going to try to take meeting first. They're probably going to focus on the closet or pantry rather inside a kitchen, as a closet in a kitchen is called a pantry. And then they're probably going to try to take care of the main lobby after that. And it's really going to come down to whether Nip is going to waste enough time on that meeting that they deprive them of any possible utility. But there's the first Lion, and I don't know what they're going to try to accomplish with that Lion. What ground are they going to be able to make up? Psycho will get spotted in the back tower. He has the soft walls of the attic. He'll get sprayed through, but he'll just simply sit in the side of the tower waiting to see if there's any going to be investment from any of the attackers to try to pinch him. They still haven't figured out exactly where PZD is playing inside a meeting hall, so there you go. They're going to have to try and take care of this Alibi ASAP.
Well, PZD, the Alibi, is still playing the meeting hall here, and nobody really contesting him from the tower, as we're expected to be, double-pronged assault, at least having one rifle trained at the doorway here, at least having it open. But Duds is set up from above. He'll try to contest this from the attic, as he has moved in. PZD still on the tower stairs, will get spotted by Sword. Will have to fall back for just a second. E1D will get popped as Wog immediately throws up his smoke canister. Everybody freezes in place.
And I think part of why he did that was just to keep himself alive. He was in a very exposed position where he knows that if he moves, he's probably going to get tagged through that open hatch. So he throws up a smoke just to obscure his position. Kamikaze from below is looking for somebody. He'll throw a C4 up, but it goes the wrong way. Lipe is the first casualty as Wog eliminates the Lion. So those were both EE1Ds that were used. So at least the gadgetry is gone. You haven't bled a lot of utility from that. You'd seen that Psycho was inside of Attic, joined not too far away by PZD. But Duds, who takes out Psycho, will be downed and then finally finished off by PZD. M-King will eliminate PZD, so Seiya is now watching the main hatch along with M-King, and they're stacked up to try and push down those main stairs. 10 seconds left, though. A C4 from Kamikaze. Let her rip. Possibly going out. Julio, rather. My apologies. And there you go. The Vector will take care of Paula. Do they get the plant down? Yeah, in the corner, but I think they realize at that point they're out of time. Seiya falls. There's only one member of the team left. They get off the plant. Why? I mean, why get off the plant? You know you're dead anyway. Whatever. You know at that point you're dead. So easy for Nip. They'll be on 4-2, and they're only 2 rounds away from going to Paris.
You mentioned that a kitchen closet is a pantry, right?
That's what it's called in this game.
Exactly. And it is a pantry in the reals of life.
It is.
However,
yes,
I've had the honor of playing games with Shas.
Oh,
Penta's coach, and this one time we were playing presidential plane because we just wanted to play casuals to have fun.
Very balanced map.
Yeah, very much so.
Heated competitive landscape.
Of course, he'll know how exactly we are. But he was telling me like, as a call out, he gets killed from the kitchen, and he tells me he's in the galley. He's in the galley, and I just what? Oh, what is a galley? Thank you very much, Mr.
Is he a pirate?
Mr. Shas, could you please explain to me what that is? And he's like, well, a galley is a kitchen on a ship. It's like, we're on a plane. What?
Oh boy.
What
Tom,
is?
I'll tell you this. Tom is a.
He's a gentleman and a squire. I'll tell you that.
Tom's a great guy. I like Tom an awful lot. Of course, you know what I like about Tom the most is that he can't seem to beat Brazilian teams. So that makes me very happy to watch when they compete against each other. And I mean, we're getting a front row to a team that has Nip in particular has had sometimes has had the number of Penta previously. I believe Penta actually is ahead in that rubber match. I think they're 2-1 right now against the core of this team. But anywho. So Nip is on defense. They won laundry downstairs, so what do? They go up to dorms. We have only seen 2 sites thus far because there has been no successful dorms defense. If that changes, then what ends up happening is, well, we have to go to either tower or kitchen. For Nip, if they do have a successful dorms defense right now, it will be match point on a site that will really test their mettle to see how they're going to be able to do on a site that really should be more attacker favored depending on the setup that you have in place. And like I said, with the way this is designed, the attackers should be losing. This should be a defensive masterclass. And because Bootcamp only won 2 of the 5, that's worrisome. Woggle takes a lot of damage. Wow. That breaching charge from Ash will go out. A great ping from Bootcamp, expecting maybe to push back into Armory, but Armory is completely clear at the moment. And there you go. But now Kamikaze also down. This is Swift. M-King will finish off Kamikaze. Wog is still bleeding out, but look at that. Paula will get pushed. He'll take a lot of damage, but manage to stay alive. Seiya will finally tase, actually. Wog. PZD is there to take duds. Listen to all of this gunfire. Paula greets PZD as he tries to vault in through the window of garage, but the Ash is there, prepared and waiting. Psycho on the flank will work his way up. He'll pre-fire into the garage, but Paula is there, and this round is all but over. Julio in a 1v4. Very unlikely that he's going to be able to make a clutch happen. A couple things working against him. Number 1, lots of utility on the attackers. Number 2, he's got a Vector, and at long range, can't really compete. And it's a pretty small magazine. It's M-King going to take that. I'm sorry, I was hoping that you were ready to speak that round, but everything just kind of happened, and it happened, and then I couldn't give it to you. I apologize.
No, but really, it was an extremely
brisk
round, to say the least. I mean, the fact that Bootcamp played it against Nip at a much faster way than Nip had even played it themselves when they were attacking this site really speaks volumes about not having an Echo to slow things down, even though technically there was a lesion. But nobody even pushed onto the site until there was only one player left.
That was brutally fast. You could
Yep.
hear the gunfire, you could hear the shots. Everybody was basically dead.
It was basically like, 4th of July minus the dead part. So just gunfire everywhere. One day we'll have an operator that has flares as well. What do you think? Could call in reinforcements.
God.
Have like a tank being called out of the map.
Yeah, that's what I think about when I think of this game. You know what? I'd love a tank.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, look, we look at border. There is an LAV stationed right there.
I'd like an operator that can turn off the sprinklers in the bank.
Oh, I would pick.
That's what I would. That'd be a must pick. Every time.
We should have this like as a mandatory thing. So whenever you spawn into border, for example, you have to shoot the speaker.
I've said many times. I have big ups to anybody who decides.
I have
to do that.
fought Orglis and IDK in the middle of their match, saying, "Guys, for the love of God, please, somebody shoot that." It's
This is actually something that the people might not be aware of. The way that they've changed Clubhouse now, when you zoom in on so let's say they're defending basement now. When you zoom in on the 5 defenders situated, because they all spawn inside a church. So when you zoom in on them right as the map starts, it now blares. It blares the jukebox.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's awful. Ubisoft, if you are listening to me, please just
They can't hear you because it's blaring in their ears all the time.
please get rid of it. Pretty please. Anywho, round number 8. We have big complications here for Nick. Now, complications rely on the fact that Boot Camp, once again, has a very front-loaded attack strategy. They've got a Twitch to be able to take care of any pesky ADSs that you might see, and maybe open up a mirror window or two. But then you've also got the Ying coupled with the Lion and an Ashe. Now, don't discredit the fact that on addition to that, Saya has the F2, which is, I would say, probably the best weapon in the game right now. Huge rate of fire, great damage, pretty easy to control, all things considered. So this, once again, has the makings of being a let's encircle the site, figure out where their roamers are, maybe isolate them, and push as quickly as we can. That's what happened last time around, and there's a very high likelihood that PZD, as well as Kamikaze, the 2 roamers that are playing deep underneath the site, and then Psycho, who we just saw, is in the the far regions of the map playing in tower, could possibly just be forgotten. And that's going to be extremely problematic for NIP.
Yeah, there's no way you push into bedroom easily if there's somebody to contest you in the tower, if they just time it at least okay.
Yeah.
Because they'll have a huge line of sight on you, and all they have to do is just hold down that mouse 1, and they will have all the rounds being expended right into your body. But PZD playing from below in the kitchen, you'll have to flush him out to make things a bit easier, because you see the holes that are pre-open for the defense of NIP just for PZD to shoot from below. And he also has Kamikaze in the bathroom. This is one of the strongest spots for a Legion to play in, coupled with the fact that you already have 1 or 2 goo mines that are already set up by the white stairs.
This is actually going to be an issue if Boot Camp decides to try to take it on, because they're spending an inordinate amount of time, and they're just ignoring these roamers right now. They're not really doing much to try to invest in taking care of them. These players that are playing beneath the site. Now, mind you, neither neither Legion nor Jaeger, as I tried to merge them together, have access to a C4. So their ability to shut things down at the end of a round is not going to be that great. But Paula, who'd been doing main entry through Meeting Hall, he's going to be taken care of by Psycho. That was the Elo that was last seen playing in the back of tower, was playing, and will likely now try to go for a rotate. And Duds is here watching flank watch, and what a great shot. He sees that one tiny punch hole go for just a second. Lion and Candela's used together. Julio will push out, throw a C4, but the Ying will be able to dance around it. Duds will just rush right in, give you a front row view as he knifes Julio and has full control of Kid Storms. But it's a volley from Kamikaze and PZD. Duds is still in, doing great work. He's the only one up, though, as Lipe is down and he has next to no health. So he's got PZD and Kamikaze, who are probably going to try to come back through white stairs. Kamikaze sees him and knows there's going to be a push happening, but doesn't really matter because PZD is there with Kamikaze, not too far off. Wog is technically going to be credited with the down. As you can see, Lipe was positioned inside of that generator room, bleeding out. And we are on match point for NIP, who could give us a beautiful 3-0 victory en route to Paris.
We'll have to see what NIP can pull in this one. All they need, ladies and gentlemen, is one more round. A 6-3 victory here is definitely being written. This NIP will go back down to the laundry, and we mentioned before that quick push from the construction, and this might be the time for Boot Camp to play their trump card.
So we're in a position right now where they have to go to laundry. Well, they don't have to, but they'd be madmen to go anywhere else. You know, you're not going to be foolish enough.
You're not going
to
to play kitchen or tower.
Yeah, you're not going to be foolish enough to do that when you're on match point. You want to go with what's safest and what you know. And right now, I mean, unless this Thatcher potentially flexes off to a Finko or potentially a Sledge.
They're expecting it.
You can see it with the Capkin. They're expecting that there's going to be a very fast pace set by Boot Camp. But Boot Camp right now doesn't really have the makings. They're actually going to lock it all in and make 0 changes. So I mean, it's doable that they could go for it, but Boot Camp, there's two competing theories here. Either number one, it's an act of desperation. You might as well go for broke and possibly try to hit them with the construction rush and see how it goes, or you try to play it safe because you came pretty close to beating them on laundry last time around. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what I would do if I was Boot Camp, in all honesty, because these are grave times.
Yeah, tough times.
These are desperate measures, and Boot Camp has really struggled to get anything on the board. Nip has actually turned in what I think is probably the greatest body of work over the last 2 months in this match against Boot Camp. When they looked a bit sloppy and lost against Immortals yesterday, who, by the way, is getting better as a team. Yuke, who was their coach, I believe, has now been moved to a starter on the team, so that's been a boon for them. And there you go. Look at this. The way they're establishing their Capkin traps, expecting a possible rush through that small tower and then working their way in, and it might work out because look at that. Duds is there, but you got the Twitch drone. Your primary target are going to be those 2 mirrors. How many of those Tazes, those Zip Zaps, are you going to use to try and take care of the Capkin traps?
Well, you got 5 Zappy Boys and 1 of your Twitch drones, and wait, what?
Zappy Boys or girls. Could be Zappy girls.
Yeah, he, she, them. Zer.
They.
There you go.
Saya's going to...
Finally, there you go. They're going to get spotted. They're not going to... So smartly, though, they don't use the tasers on them. They just come in, spot them for the Ashe to come in and eliminate them. The alibi has been eliminated for NIP, puts Boot Camp in the advantage.
And Paula did a great job last time at finding all the Capkin traps. Mind you, they weren't with a gun, they were with their own body, and Paula was, of course, dead shortly thereafter. So not so great for him, but the Ashe doesn't really survive more than 1.5 anyway, because it does so much damage. But the alibi did not waste much time at all. That's not a very successful roam whatsoever for Nip, and they've already found themselves currently fighting on their back foot. There's going to be a drone going out, and oh, Kamikaze's just going to miss the head of one, but he's going to reveal himself, and that's Duds who shuts it down. Paula's positioned on white stairs. This is excellent right now for Boot Camp. Julio and Psycho downstairs in sight waiting, but the only one up top is Wog. That's it. You've got your smoke downstairs, and if he gets found out, and he gets found out early, you're going to have about a minute of the clock to worry about where you don't have any of those remote gas grenades. That is a big concern.
They will have the 2 C4s to play with if need be, and realizing that saving the smoke is a big part, or at least having them do as much damage as possible is a big part of this defense. I'll try to support him, at least from attic here, as they'll force him out. Unfortunately, Wog, too preoccupied with the drone. They'll get baited in and taken out by Duds. In the meantime, it's Psycho on the Capkin that'll go down. Julio coming on in as... the rest of the team is pretty much ready to support. You already heat the Thermite, and all the 5 players are setting up to go down on the site. They've already spotted Julio, and Seiya will be the Doombringer here as NIP stick to that map and match point. However, all face at least a bit more resistance from their opponents. Boot Camp, and the thing is, this goes to round 10. Boot Camp 1 round away from tying it to go to a second overtime.
So a flawless round from Boot Camp, and excellent drone work, excellent coordination to roam clear, and then, I mean, Nip at that point, I think they decided that, hey, we're probably going to die on site because it's a 2v5. We should maybe get a bit aggressive and see if we can get a pick or two. You saw the Capkin move up to try to find somebody inside a meeting or over top of meeting through that attic wall. You saw Julio push up to rear stage and then work his way through meeting hall and then get pinched by Seiya and the other 4 members of Boot Camp, all, by the way, who were all in the main lobby. So now we have, once again, an opportunity for Nip to go downstairs. This is conceivably when, if I was Boot Camp, I would possibly bring out the rush strat. This is when I would possibly try to go as quickly as I could. But they got a Sledge. They have a Lion. This is doable, but you can see the 2 are going to spawn street. They're not going to bother to go over construction. It's likely not going to be a quick push. So it worked against FaZe. I think they realized that Nip is a bit more aware. They're and Nip might be immune to their antics, so to speak. So a couple things for Nip to do to try and consolidate this round and you know, go the full distance is number one, make sure that you have more bodies inside of your meeting hall that don't die right away. And that was the thing, is that you stick PZD up there all by himself with his clones. It's not going to take too much, and the Lion was able to find him early on, and Saya got the opening kill. And once that happens, you kind of crack open the whole round. Then they had Wag or Wog mysteriously upstairs to try and kill time. Your smoke is not designed to kill time. You know, I wonder actually if it would have been a 3v5 with Wog down on site, in addition to the Capcan and the Mirror, if that round could have possibly gone a different way. But I think Nip realized that it was, let's just get this round over with and take a big risk. And if it works, hey. If not, we got one more.
I think they were trying to force the Capcan to work a bit too much. And because of that, they're like, okay, we can still play off the site. We still have the Capcan traps. We can still use the EDDs to our advantage. Now, Twitch Drone had already eliminated all of those and at least helped their Ashe to clean it up here for boot camp. So at that point, they realized, okay, we should stop doing that. Let's just bring a Legion. It's already good enough. We don't really need to dedicate that because it's a lot easier to spot the EDDs, especially when you're going to drone so much before coming in. You're not going to go for construction rush once at the start of the round you realize, oh, darn. They're bringing a Capcan. Let's just not go through there. We'll drone the rest.
No, absolutely correct. And I think boot camp is going to take a lot of time on this one. We might actually see that this is going to be a very passive round for them, and they might try to, you know, do the whole, you know, the same phrase that I used to describe Vitality is, you know, the measure twice, cut once sort of deal, where I think they're going to be meticulous in trying to spot everybody out. As for Nip, I don't think they're going to take too many risks, possibly. And they'll fall back right away. Look at that. They've completely vacated meeting control except for one. That's the Alibi, who will get spotted as M-King's drone is in a pretty good position. And you can see that boot camp could possibly put some pressure on the site. And by doing that, it will have to draw out those playing in the meeting hall and possibly try and stop them.
Now, Sledge has set up here meeting hall. Oh, second Guma. It is just a huge annoyance, but it also alerts the Alibi in the back of meeting that there's somebody pushing up to them. Unfortunately, Kamikaze with the support coming in to get the kill, and well, the Alibi in the back will survive. You were mentioning that having the Alibi all on her own is not really that great of a decision. Well, you know what? It works out fine, and the Alibi in the back will support the Legion, and they'll have each other's back as NIP looking strong here. They peek in, and unfortunately for Psycho, the FAMAS will overpower the MPX up close. But it sounds like there's a lot of health remaining for Duds. Last few seconds of this, Wog will get one more with his SMG-11. The roaming smoke making it happen. Leibzord just looking through the down mirror window. Duds comes on in. There's still the Alibi in the back, but they don't really have any explosives to deal with her, as you know, the Sledge had already fallen previously. Come on down to the main stairs. It's 2v4, and there's still a smoke alive. We hit the 25-second mark. Smoke will get thrown in. Spray in the back. The Alibi somehow still alive in this engagement, and Leibzord is detected, and this is why they're playing in the back. PZD will get down, but there's still one player coming in from the side, and the last two kills coming from NIP. Kamikaze and PZD clean up boot camp to take the win, and that's a 3-0 for NIP, but the scoreline does not tell the complete story. In my mind, this was too close for comfort. I'm sure for NIP. They had a rough start early on. Consulate was a tight game. We got to Oregon, and their boot camp had their comebacks, but unfortunately NIP's experience kind of wins it out. Yeah,
and I mean, you've got one of the most poised teams, not just in the world, but also, and most importantly, in their region. Yeah. You know, we always refer to Latin America as the big three. You know, you've got Liquid FaZe and NIP, who are formerly known as Black Dragons, as the big three. I think you can probably conceivably put Immortals up there now too, especially now that it's the big four that are going to be representing their region, which is great. Last time around, it was Gaming, who are now Pain, that were at the Paris Major. Now it's going to be Immortals instead, and we'll see if, you know, I guess this is actually quite big for NIP because they don't need to focus on winning DreamHack Valencia as much anymore. A reminder that the winner of DreamHack Valencia gets a spot at the Paris Major, the sixth Paris. We got to figure out where
the sixth major, the Paris sixth major.
I keep wanting to call it the sixth Paris, and I realize that
Paris
sounds
major
so silly. But there you go. So pressure's off them.
Yes.
To win at Valencia. They've made their way in, and it's, you know, other than Consulate, I think that's a pretty strong win, and I think they need this. They need a big win to get that groove back, to find that motivation, to find that confidence, because they've been playing from behind almost every single match we've seen over the last, you know, three-ish weeks or so. maybe they just haven't been adapting very well. I don't know. But here are the brackets for you, just so you can see what exactly happened in Latin America. Boot Camp losing to NIP earlier on, so a rematch, of course, and the NIP prevailing this time 3-0, so a better round for them. In the semifinals onwards, a bit of a yikes for Team 1. Unable to find a single round victory, but Immortals and NIP looking so good, and they will both be in Paris.
Yeah, one thing to remind everybody, because we've seen the question floating around quite a bit for DreamHack Valencia, because a lot of people have been asking what happens if, you know, Penta win, or, you know, Millennium win there, or Mocket win. Well, the thing is with DreamHack is that you have got 16 teams, 4 being BYOC. 8 of them will really be on the big stage the next the 2 out of the 3 days. However, depending on who wins at the end, you just go down the list, and that's the difference compared to what we have in Pro League, because in Pro League there's no distinction between 3rd and 4th place.
But there is a DreamHack.
Yeah, there is. They still play. Same thing for 5th and 6th. Same thing for 7th and 8th.
It used to be seeding matches, but there were some issues with, I think, teams competing last time around because of how tight the schedule was. So typically there are seeding matches for Pro League, but not last season.
Yep.
Not last season at all.
So there you go.
So let's say Team Vitality finishes 3rd, because Team Vitality right now could very well miss the Paris Major, as they were knocked out of the losers bracket or the lower bracket, and then of course didn't prevail in the French Nationals. Their only opportunity to get in right now, if you're a fan of Team Vitality, the only way for them to get in,
drive down to Valencia and
is the DreamHack Valencia. So if they finish 3rd or if they finish 4th, and everybody above them, let's say, you know, it's like Penta, like NIP, and then I think Rogue is going. Yeah, then if those 3 finish, then it goes with them. So yeah, interestingly enough. But go on and to our Twitter, vote for the MVP, because we're all done with our broadcast today. So if you think there's somebody worthy of your vote, go and click. There are a couple names floating in my head, I'm sure. Gasson, there are a couple floating in yours as well. But always a pleasure to join you on here on the desk. Thank you for joining me today. Had fun joining you. Go out, go shop for your best pair of leather pants, and we have a couple hours until our next matchup, which is going to be Europe. It's going to be Identity versus IDK, where the winner is going to go to Paris.
You know one thing? I know a lot of people want IDK to win, but Identity's story is absolutely amazing. We'll talk about it more tomorrow, but I imagine if they do win, it'll be a case of, you know, IDK just saying, I would have gotten away with this if it weren't for those... You and those meddling kids. Meddling kids, yeah. Okay, well, that's all it for us tonight.
Why were there so many Scooby-Doo jokes today?
I like Scooby. I actually have to rewatch Scooby-Doo.
You have lots of time.
Yes! All right. That's what we're going to do on the plane to Valencia. Thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back tomorrow night, 1900 CEST, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard, well, Eastern Summer Time, right? There we go.
DT Eastern Time.
We'll be back for more. It's not done just yet. It's a long week. Siege.
Take care. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow.